So to design any project, the data access layer is a very important. And in data access layer, we have seen already using JDBC, using Hibernate, and then after we discussed using what our data JPA. What is the data JPA? How much it is? It will ease our work. We have seen ready-made approach. There is no nothing you need to do that. There just you need to create the entity class, and then you need to apply that some properties in application.properties file, and you need to create one interface. And based on your requirement, you just create, you can utilize your JPQL knowledge and you can write your query to fetch the data from the database. Now, whenever you are designing any application, the main important thing is that how much optimized code you are writing. So generally, what I used to follow that principle. So any application, let's say that any assignment or any application you are getting. So your approach should be like that. First, solve that particular problem by anyhow. We should get that output. We should get the solution for that particular application or problem, whatever. The next step is what we need to optimize that application. Optimization in the sense we need to check what are the coding standard, how we can overcome, that means how we can modularize our application. इस application को कितने अच्छे से हम लोग और बना सकते हैं, क्या क्या चीजें हैं जिसको हम optimize कर सकते हैं, right? And in case of your data access layer, you need to think about like that, that query, the database query, whatever you are writing, that should be totally optimized. Just like that, we have seen last class how I have written the query. I have used the inner join. I have used that select operation, write the JPQL, instead of just depending upon getting the data, entire data by using find all and returning it back to the client. We have to use the pagination concept. We have to use the sorting concept. Don't ever try to sort the data in your Java application, even though we have the option, we can do that. But always write the queries, or let's say that you are not comfortable with JPQL. Then what you do that, first write that in the term of SQL. You are very much comfortable with the SQL. Check out that what would be the query by using which we can fetch the data. And then think like that, इसको हम JPQL में कैसे लिखें? Joining condition क्या होनी चाहिए? और इसे हम कितना optimize कर सकते हैं कि हमारा काम आसानी से हो जाए, and which is taking very less time as well. One key important thing while designing this data access layer, what is that you might, in your project, you may get lots of entities or lots of tables. Here we are just using hardly one or two tables. या फिर हमने बस use किया था department और employee या फिर course or student. But in real time project, there might be what 10 and 20, more than 20 tables, 30 table could be there. And the relationship among the tables also would be there. So in that case, how we can establish those relationships? ORM is a very nice framework, and you can say that is the most, that means this framework, using that framework only, you can say that a Java developer life become much more easier. Because managing this data access part is a super complex part. It was in initial days. So whenever we are going to establish the relationship among the entities, right? Entities are basically mapped off by your table. So entities क्या होते हैं? ये आपके tables की mapping होते हैं. So just like that, we used to say that term in our database is a table. Here we used to say that entity in Java, and this is the mapping is ORM approach. Okay, but imagine you have total around, let's say 20 tables are there. So you need to create the 20 classes or as well, 20 entity classes as well, respond to those tables. Now imagine here all those tables are in the relationship. Then definitely these entities also would be in a relationship. Let's say that your particular product is there. So one restaurant entity is there in that, your item will be there in that, customers will be there. So multiple entities and they have the relationship. एक entity के relationship कई दूसरे table के साथ हो सकती है. एक table कई सारे table से relate कर सकता है. In that case, how would you manage those relationships? The important and key thing is here what, कि जब भी आप relationship mapping करो, तो वहां पे आप at a time you need to focus on one relationship. ठीक है, इस entity के अंदर बहुत सारे relationship है, और भी अलग अलग classes के साथ, कोई किसी के साथ has लगा हुआ है, किसी के साथ one to one है, किसी के साथ one to many है, बहुत सारे relationship है. तो जब भी आप relationship design करना, that time you need to take that to entity and focus on those relationship. कि ये पहले दो entity के relationship को हम clear कर लें, कि इनमें bi-directional relationship होंगे या unidirectional relationship होगा, one to one होगा या one to many होगा, where to use map by, where to use cascading, where to use JSON ignore. Check out that if relationship is working properly, relationship got established. Then only try to put that another entity, and then अब उसके relationship के बारे में सोचना पड़ेगा. How we are going to relate this entity with this particular type. So you need to give some time. You can utilize your chat GPT. Nowadays it is there, but in our days it was not there. We need to think, we need to analyze what type of relationship could be there among these entities. So that is the thing here where you might have learned there in your schema designing. क्योंकि entity के relationship की designing ये totally depend करता है आपके schema designing knowledge पे. Schema designing, database schema designing I'm talking about. So database schema designing is another topic, like just like that your object orientation design. So in that schema design, you have that multiple tables. You need to first figure out a particular problem. They will provide you a problem domain. From the problem domain, you need to find out कि क्या entity हो सकती है, how many tables could be there. Those tables, what would be the attributes, what would be the column, which will be the multi-valued column, which will be the normal column. Then you need to figure out what will be the primary key. Lots of rules are there, axioms are there. Based on that, you can identify what is the primary key. So based on that, you can, lots of other concepts are there, like functional dependency and all those things you might have learned there in your SB 101, where you have learned that primary key, foreign key, and table relationship, one-to-one, one-to-many, many-to-many. Primary key, how to figure out what is the primary key, what is the composite key. Then you need to figure out कि ये entity तो हमने define कर लिया, अब इनके अंदर relationship क्या होगा. That part is called what? Schema designing, database schema designing. And database schema designing, it is not easy a task. You have to just give that little time over there. You need to analyze that ये relationship कैसे होगा, इसको further हम कैसे optimize कर सकते हैं. And based on that, you need to create what? ER diagram. You need to design what? ER diagram. And then based on this ER diagram, you need to think, एक बार आपके पास ER diagram मिल गया, तब आपको entity design करने में कोई problem नहीं होगी, क्योंकि ER diagram में मालूम है कि किस टेबल का कौन सा टेबल के साथ relationship है, और ये one to one है या one to many है, what are the cardinalities, and then you can design those entities. Because एक बार आपकी entity designing हो गई, फिर क्या है, बाकी के सारे काम आपके लिए बहुत ही simple है, because you have the JPA repository. You have pagination and sorting repository. They have the ready-made method supports. You have the power of JPQL. You can utilize and you can perform your design your service layer. And then controller layer में क्या करना है, इसी service को कैसे expose करना है by using endpoints. And how to handle the exception controlling part, that is also very much simple. वहाँ पे भी ज़्यादा कुछ नहीं है. Response entity will be there. You need to take the path variable, request body. You have to apply the validation. So those things are quite simple. Just one-time learning thing is there. But this part is super important. So you should spend. You need to design some application, and you need to check out that some other applications. कि इसकी database designing क्या, मतलब इसका relationship क्या है? How the database designing was maintained. Because why I'm talking about too much time over this concept, because if you are strong in this area, then object orientation design will become very much simple to you in the term of your ORM approach. And your project 30 to 40% part will totally depend upon this part, entity relationship design. Am I clear? Please confirm. Okay. Now, last class we started about that this Lombok project. That means how this Lombok is working, project Lombok, and getter setter method. Very simple. It is no interviewer will ask any question from the Lombok. It's only for you. In your project, it will save your time to just design, put some annotation, and you can just focus on your main business logic. If anyone getting any problem while their Lombok is not working, their configuration is not done, getter setter काम नहीं कर रहा है, we tried this one, but I'm not able to run my jar file. So tomorrow you have the PSC session, Zakir will going to take, so you can take the help from him. Is it okay? Please confirm. Good. Now let's talk about that, what the topic we are going to discuss today. The first thing we are going to discuss about that Swagger. Second thing we are going to discuss about that, how to use logging. in our application. And third thing, we are going to use a super interesting concept is Spring Security. Spring Security, basic authentication, authorization, basic login, logout functionality we are going to discuss. Furthermore, things like how to use the authorization, how to use database. Using the database, we can create that user password management, all those things, and JWT we are going to discuss in our upcoming sessions. So these three things we are going to discuss. So let's start with this Swagger first part. Okay, anyone having any idea about the Swagger? Why we use that particular Swagger? Why we use this Swagger, or किसी ने नाम सुना है? Of course, those people, they are from the Sync batch. They a Sync student, they know that. But anyhow, so basically, till now we have created endpoints. We created that REST API using Spring Boot. अब आप ये बताओ, ये REST API आपने किस लिए बनाया है? Why you have used that? Why we have used this REST API? Or why we have created this REST API? आप तो इसे यूज नहीं कर रहे हो, you have created that because somebody is going to use, right? Who will going to use? इसका यूज कौन करेगा? Who will call this API? This API can be called by the front end. Front end could be your JavaScript, could be your Angular, React, whatever Ajax call you can by using those you can call. Could be your application client. Application client in the sense, ये तो front end हमारे Angular, React, these are the front end. They are also application only, but using that they can get the data and they can put that in a front end. But some application client also can call those API to get the data, and those data they can do what? They can embed or they can process in their application, और उससे वो खुद का अपना API बना दे. बने बनाए API आपके पास, suppose that you are using this API. So this API will do what? Using, let's say that application client could be another Java application, another is Spring Boot application. You can say that there is a microservices, right? You can say that another programming language like Python application. You can say that your Node application. So .NET application, different kind of application, they can call your API. Not only the front end, these application program also they can call your API. उनसे क्या करेंगे, वो आपके API को कॉल करेंगे, उनको डेटा मिल जाएगा, वो डेटा वो अपने एप्लीकेशन में यूटिलाइज कर पाएंगे, right? So those things basically in Java, how to call those API in Java, we have one class called REST template we are going to discuss in our last session along with our J unit. That time, this time, this REST template is also included in our curriculum. So how to call the REST API in another Java application, we are going to see that. So basically, this REST API you have created, it will be called by the different application. ठीक है. अब ये जो application जो client है, उन्हें कैसे पता है कि कौन सा API आपने बनाया है? How many API you have created? कितने सारे API हैं? उनको कॉल करने का तरीका क्या है? Which API is taking request body? Let's say that you have created one post API to register any customer or student, right? So how they will know that ये post register इसका जो body होगा, body में student का data हमें ये field pass करना है. Date we need to pass that in a DDMMYY. We need to pass that enum by this way. We need to pass this detail. Right? So of course, yes, Rupa, you are correct by using what? Documentation. Documentation is the only things. That means you need to share your documentation anyhow by using to your client. आपको अपने client के साथ आपको documentation share करना पड़ेगा for your API. These services are there. In order to call this service, you need to pass this request parameter. You need to pass this path variable. You need to pass this request body. You are going to get, if something goes wrong, you are going to get this type of status code. For success, you are going to get 200. For created, you are going to get 202. This kind of status code, you are going to get the header. So everything should be documented. अब क्या था कि REST API को documentation का कोई hard and fast rule नहीं था. There is no any proper specification in initial days was there. It was totally depend upon how you are interacting with your other application people. So basically, our web services. This REST API is a one kind of web service. I hope everybody is aware with that. The REST API, whatever you have created, it is a part of your what? Web service. और ये वेब सर्विस कितने तरह के होते हैं? Web service are of two kinds, two types. First one, that is SOAP-based web service. And second one, a RESTful API or RESTful web service. I hope you have heard about this SOAP-based web service as well. Of course, we have not learned about too much about this SOAP-based web service, but जब हमारे पास RESTful web service नहीं था, in initial days we have to use this SOAP-based web service. And nowadays, some companies still they are using the SOAP-based web services. In the case where you are not allowed to use the HTTP protocol to expose your API, in that case, you have to use the SOAP-based web services. I have given one interview in Infosys, and the interviewer asked me, can you tell me that how many ways are there to create the web services? I told that, yes, we have two ways, SOAP-based and RESTful, and nowadays people are using RESTful web services. Then he told me that, can you tell me that in which case we should consider to create the SOAP-based web services? So that time I have given the answer like that, where we are not allowed to use the HTTP protocol. क्योंकि आप जो RESTful API बनाते हो, that API we generally expose through what? HTTP protocol, right? लेकिन कभी कभी क्या होता है कि हमें API बना के क्लाइंट को हमें HTTP के थ्रू नहीं एक्सपोज करना है. We need to share the another channel to expose our API, to call those API. That is XML-based protocol. And here we use this SOAP-based web services. तो SOAP-based web services हम जब पहले के दिनों में बनाते थे वहां पे, it is the XML-based protocol. XML-based protocol. And there we create the services. Java के classes ही लिखते थे वहां पे, लेकिन उन classes में क्या method है वहां पे और everything we expose through XML. Which method you will call? If you call this method, what the parameter you need to pass as a request body, request parameter, path variable, everything. You need to send those data using XML. You need to call your API using XML. There are some parser classes used to be there. Those parser classes, they parse this XML data in a Java object, and then your real service used to be get called. So it was quite heavyweight component, and it was a little complex there. That's why the easiest approach came, that is RESTful web services. And industry moved to the RESTful web services because of it's a super simple. Now, in SOAP-based web services, we had one particular file called WSDL file. WSDL file. This WSDL file used to call as what? Your documentation. Documentation of SOAP-based web service. तो आपने SOAP-based web services बनाया, अब वहां पे कौन से मेथड कॉल करने हैं, कौन सा मेथड क्या स्टेटस कोड देगा, and how you are going to call a particular API, everything you need to write that in a WSDL file. This is an XML-based file, web service definition language. And believe me, it was quite complex file. I am just saying that what you just type in the Google, what is a WSDL file, and at least check out that the format of the WSDL file. And you don't believe that we have written thoroughly this WSDL file manually. We have written for a SOAP-based web services in our initial days when we have started learning web services. But right now, RESTful API, very simple. You have that get, post, put, and delete HTTP method. Using that, you can expose a number of APIs. Okay, लेकिन ये RESTful API को documentation करने का कोई हमारे पास strict formula नहीं था. In that case, what is there? This Swagger came. Swagger came into the picture. So Swagger 2 is the latest version. That is the Swagger 2. Initially, it was Swagger 1.0, but now we are using Swagger 2. What is the Open API? So in a simple, it is similar like that. Your JPA, this is your Hibernate. What is the meaning of that? Open API is just a specification, and Swagger is an implementation. So you will notice here, Open API is a specification, and Swagger is a tool that implements this specification. So Swagger 2 is an open source project used to generate the REST API documentation for RESTful web service. It provides a user interface to access the RESTful web service via the web browser. Okay, we expose the APIs as a backend component for the front end component or third party application. Third party application जिसके बारे में हमने बात की थी. Not only the front end, you can have to expose for the third party application as well. Interaction in such scenario, it is essential to have proper specification for the backend APIs. At the same time, the API documentation should be informative, readable, and easy to follow. Moreover, reference documentation should simultaneously describe every changes in the API. Compiling this manual is tedious exercise. To automate this process was inevitable. मतलब क्या है कि अगर आपने एपीआई बना दिया है, कल को आप कुछ मॉडिफिकेशन कर रहे हैं, तो आपने एक बार डॉक्यूमेंटेशन आप शेयर कर चुके हो, आप अगर फॉर्मल नहीं होगा वो इनफॉर्मल होगा, तो क्या होगा, पिछले टाइम में जब हम रेस्ट एपीआई ये कोई प्रॉपर सॉल्यूशन नहीं था, तो रेस्ट एपीआई के जो डॉक्यूमेंटेशन थे उसके गाइडलाइन मैनुअली हम बना के और मेल के थ्रू हम क्लाइंट को भेजते थे. वी टू सेंड थ्रू द मेल और सम अदर चैनल वी सेंड टू द क्लाइंट. लेकिन वो टेडियस प्रोसेस था. क्यों? क्योंकि कुछ भी आप चेंजेस कर रहे हो तो फिर वहां पे आपको इंटीमेट करना पड़ेगा कि अभी ये कुछ चेंजेस हो चुके हैं. फॉर दैट वन वी हैव टू यूज दिस स्वैगर. सो स्वैगर स्प्रिंग बूट 3.x के पहले we had the different type of dependency we need to add, but in the latest Spring Boot we have to use this Open API. In prior to Spring 3.x we need to use the Spring Fox implementation. Spring Fox was the Spring Boot implementation of this Swagger, that is, but here we need to use this Open API, the standard specification to generate any kind of REST API. And Swagger is the implementation of this particular specification. Now let's talk about that कि ये बहुत ही simple है, इसे हमें कैसे add करना है. You just need to throw some couple of dependency in your project. That's it. You need to throw this couple of dependency. One is your Spring Boot, Spring Doc, Open API Starter Web MVC UI. This is the first dependency you need to add. And second one is your Spring Boot Starter validation. This validation, I hope you are aware with this. Can you tell me we have used this dependency already? When we have used this? Yes, when we are using the validation. जब हम validation use कर रहे थे ना, @size, not null, that time we have used data validation. तो ये dependency इसकी सब dependency है. तो आपको अगर Swagger use करना है तो you have to add this one. लेकिन अगर आपने पहले से dependencies को add कर रखा है, then you can skip, you can directly add this one. मतलब अगर आप Swagger use करना चाहते हो तो this dependency is a mandatory one. You have to add. Whether you are using validation or not, this dependency should be there. पहले से अपने add कर रखा है, then no problem, you just add this dependency. That's it. Just throw this two dependency and automatically you are going to get two endpoints. आपको दो endpoint मिल जाएंगे अपने आप. So with this dependency, we are going to get two APIs automatically, and that is what /v3/API doc/. This endpoint will give you the JSON documentation in the JSON format. And if you need that in a much more readable, attractive format or interactive as well, you need to use this one, Swagger UI.html. So these endpoints you are going to get free of cost just by adding this two dependency. And then using this one, it will give you the UI documentation. Now, the important thing is that this UI documentation, not only it will give you the entire things, how many endpoints are there, what is the domain object, using that you need to pass the data. You can interact with your API also by using this UI HTML. Let me show you. So I have created the project here last class, that is here pagination and sorting application. Or let's say that I'm talking about this one, relationship one. And let me first go to that. I have created lots of, here I have controller, department controller, in which I have some endpoints. Here I have two endpoints are there. In employee controller, I have a few endpoints are there. So I want to generate those documentation about those APIs. So simply I need to open the form.xml and we need to throw this dependency. That is Spring Fox. Sorry, here that is that. Spring Doc Open API Starter Web MVC UI. So Spring Doc Open API, UI, MVC, Spring MVC, MVM. So you can go to the MVM repository. You can directly open that. This is the open UI. You need to open UI MVC, web MVC, Spring dot web MVC UI. This one, Spring Doc Open API Starter Web MVC UI. So click on this, and you need to pick the latest dependency. This one. Copy this and paste it in your form. Let me check in this project. I have not used the validation, right? So it is, we have to add the validation dependency as well. So you can search here Spring Boot data validation. Spring starter validation. Spring Boot starter validation. So Spring Boot starter validation. And click on that, which Spring Boot version you are using, that is 3.0.2. So let me have there 3.0.2. Stick version, and I paste it here. Save this file. We can remove this version, the redundant, because it is already there in the parent form. Let it be. So I have saved this. Let me just update my Maven project. Maven update project. Force update. Yeah. So it is downloading this project, updating that. Cool. So it is done. Now let me just launch my application. And let's check out by calling any endpoint. I'm going to call one endpoint, that is employees on a particular department ID. Check out that by using this. Okay. Employees slash department ID is so fun. So here in the department number 1, I have two employees are there, so I'm able to access this data. Okay, my APIs are working properly. Now let's check out that whether my documentation is there created or not. So in that case, what we need to do, we are going to get here what two endpoints slash v3 slash API docs. So let's first verify that documentation is working or not. So you need to just use this 8080 slash v3 slash API docs slash. Don't forget to give this slash after this talk. And this is a get method. Right now it is saying that v3 docs 803 is not working. Yeah, there is no any slash here. In the Swagger, it was there, but here this slash not required. Okay, not required here, this slash. And now you are able to see this all your JSON documentation. This JSON documentation you can utilize to convert that your JSON to the Java object, and you can read that one. But to be much more interactive with this endpoint, you're going to get what one UI. This is what HTTP :// localhost 8080, and that endpoint name is your swagger-ui.html. Sure. Swagger-ui.html. So you need to just paste this in and hit the enter. You are going to get that this UI documentation. So in this documentation, let's spend some time here. So we will see that here we have two controller. One is the employee controller, department controller, and employee controller. We have two endpoints: employee/department ID, employee/department ID here as well. This is get and post. This is that post and get in the department controller as well. And you will see that is schemas. That means how many model objects you have. Model objects, by using that, you need to send the data. So in address, these are the entire fields. That is city, is which type of data is string, this is the state, this is the pin code. All are the string data. In the employee, you can see here, these are the all are the employee related data: employee, integer, ID, name, and these are the date, date of birth, and this addresses is a array. Right? This is the enum. Gender is an enum, male and female, and addresses this having this data. So these are your what domain object. So you are able to see that entire endpoints here. Not only this, you can interact with your those endpoints as well. So हम इस endpoints हम interact भी कर सकते हैं. So let's see that here how I am interacting this. So let's say that I'm going to call this employees list in a particular department here. So you just click on this here. This toggle button is there. You click on that. So here it is asking what try it out. You need to click on this try it out. And here you will notice this is your request center department ID. It is taking as a parameter, integer number it is expecting. And if you pass that department ID, let's say that 1, and click on execute. So here you will see that here is your response body. That means status score 200, and this is your response body. And these are the response headers. Right? So Zaid is saying Swagger is the name of this UI. No, this is not a Swagger. Swagger is a tool to document your REST API. It follows the Open API specification. Right? Now, these are the response headers you are able to see. These are the response body. Now, the important thing is that whether you are calling the endpoint from the Postman or Swagger, internally they use what? Curl command. You will notice this is the curl command. This is the curl command how you are calling, and you can use this using your terminal. मतलब आप command prompt से भी आप इस endpoint को call कर सकते हो. In industry, most of the time people check that these APIs are working or not using this terminal. So you can go to your terminal and you can paste this data. You can get this one, you will get that entire information. So let me just try to call this endpoint using terminal. So you need to use this curl, and then after -x, get. Then after you need to use in a single quote, that is HTTP ://localhost 8080/employees/1. And then after, if you want to pass any header, you need to use -h and pass that header. But let it be, try to call here as it is. Curl legal format URL -x get and HTTP ://localhost 8080 employees/1. Let me just pass this header as well. -h accept start start format the slash. Let me try with this. The slash is not acceptable. Directly you can call this one slash because the line break. Na? You can utilize, let me check out that, but I guess the line break options will not come. Because it is going to take the line break each line, so it will not work. Yes, X should be small. Yes, correct. This should be small. And this should not be there. Illegal format or missing. Proxy get. Yeah, now this is able to access employee H. And here it is saying that method not allowed. Yeah, the single code was the problem. Here, this is the curl command. So here I'm able to access this data in my console as well, right? So internally it is using what the curl command. And not only this, in fact, your postman, if you're calling through the postman also, and you will see here, there is a button here, you will notice this one. Click on this, and you will see this is the curl command. Your postman is also using the curl command internally, and by using that, you are able to access your endpoint. Make sense? So not only the postman or browser, you can even call through the curl command prompt, also your endpoints. So internally that command it is also used. Now, but it is super cool here to just execute your, not only you can see that how many endpoints are there, and you are able to access this endpoint as well. You can interact with this. So I request everyone to just add this Swagger dependency in your project, right? So here the another benefit is what, let's say that you want to post a particular request. So here you will see that on a department ID, you want to add some employees. Right? So this department ID you need to select here, and this is the employee schema is also there. You need not fill this one. You can simply just put the data. So you can try it out. And let's say that in department ID 1, I'm trying to add one department. So it is the application slash JSON. You need to no need to pass the employee ID because employee ID is auto-generated, and ename, you need to pass that name. And just like that, you can pass all the details. It will. Ritik is saying, can we use the Swagger in evaluation? Yes, of course you can. Swagger, Lombok, whatever, because it will not affect your main business logic. It will just enhance your कि आपके पास एक endpoint भी मिल जाएगा जो कि आप आसानी से आप उसे interact कर सकते हो. Got it? there is no any relation with the your main business logic with this Swagger. ये बाद में आपका सारे API बन जाए, you have concentrated on your business logic and everything is done. Then you can utilize this. Okay. Now the next thing in this Swagger is what suppose that till now we didn't discuss about the Spring security, but when you are just going to use the Spring security by today itself, we are going to start. So if you are using the Spring security, you need to add the username password. And sometimes you may have to use your JWT token. In that case, here right now in this endpoint, if you notice, there is no any option to pass username or password. Let's say that this API is a protected API. और इसे कॉल करने के लिए आपको username password, you have to be authenticated, you should have the authorization, you need to pass the token, then only you are allowed to call this endpoint. So those options are not visible here. By default, it will not be visible. You need to do certain configuration in order to pass the username, password using the basic authentication or token. So what you need to do, you need to use, I have already mentioned there in your notes. So you need to pass these annotations where on the top of main class. So these annotation on the top of your class, which is having the main method, you need to apply these annotations. Let you first copy this annotation and paste there, and then I will show you कि ये कैसा दिखाई देता है. So go to your STS and it will stop the server and pick your main class. Here it is. And before this Spring Boot application, we need to just, because I have already copied this. And let's import all of them. This got imported. One line is missing. That is what? Application. This should be there. Now, this annotation you need to paste on the top of your main class. What are those annotations? Now, this is the Open API definition. Here is the first property info in which you need to pass your title. Your title could be what? Your employee application or Swaggy application or hospital management, whatever your title you want to do. If you want to specify any version, you can. So this is the first property. Using info, you can specify those details. Another one, security property is there. This security property is taking some JSON data. That means not JSON, is an array. Basically, so you need to pass one security requirement, basic auth. What is the basic auth? Right now, after this topic or logging, we are going to discuss about this basic auth. And the next one is a bearer token. So this basic auth will give you the two dialog box. That means where you can pass the username and password, and this bearer token where you can pass your JWT token. And this is servers. Using that, you can configure this server URL / and you can give any description. And this basic auth you need to configure as well using the security realm, and here security scheme type and the bearer type. So this just you need to use this annotation. Further things about the security right now, you may not understand this basic auth bearer token, but very soon when we'll start the security. बस अभी के लिए आप ये समझो कि हम अगर हमारा एप्लीकेशन में Spring security अगर enable है, so you need to apply this configuration. उससे क्या होगा? Let me show you. Now, if I will launch the application, and go to here, let me just relaunch this endpoint once again. And you will notice the same page will going to open. So same page will be open here. And in this page, you will see here there is a button called authorize. Here one button is there. And our title is also mentioned over here. Version is also mentioned over here. So this authorize button is there. And if you click on this authorize button, here are that basic authorization where you can pass your username and password. Okay. And if you have the JWT token, you can pass and you can click authorize. And then after you are able to call any of your endpoints. Does it make sense? लेकिन अगर आपने ये annotation नहीं pass किया है, तो ये मेनू और ये ऑथराइज बटन आपको दिखाई नहीं देगा. In order to enable this authorized button, you need to do some configuration. And what those configuration? You need to add this Open API definition using this annotation. You can specify some configuration. Does it make sense? When we add Spring Security Dependency, yes, Spring Security Dependency ही नहीं, अगर आपके API protected है तब, जब आपको API को एक्सेस करने के लिए यूजर नेम पासवर्ड की जरूरत पड़ेगी. कब पड़ेगी? We are going to see that today itself. We are going to start that Spring Security. So here you can specify your JWT token and authorize. Here you can pass with username and password to get authorized. Okay. This is it for your Swagger. Swagger is a little big topic. Lots of things are there. You can customize your documentation. You can put some other details also after by configuration. You have some annotations are there. If you have the time, you can visit to the Open API official documentation there. You'll get some more information. But for our application, it is more than enough. Even interviewer will not going to ask you any question to how to configure these things in your what are the annotations to configure those things. Because they will just, if you just express or explain them, just say that you are deploying your application on cloud, right? Your REST API you are deploying on a cloud. So if you want to access your endpoints, so directly you can expose this URL, and using that anyone can check out that how many controller, how many things are you have created, and they can interact with your endpoint as well. Is it very cool feature of your that is Spring Boot. I hope everyone there will be no, this is a very simple step. आपको बस दो डिपेंडेंसी ऐड करनी है, बाकी के सारे काम अपने आप हो जाएंगे. अगर सिक्योरिटी है तो ये एनोटेशन आपको ऐड कर देंगे. Am I clear till this part? Please confirm. Good. Now the next topic we are going to start, that is logging in Spring Boot. What is the logging here? Why we use this logger? Okay. So logging का काम क्या है? Logging हम क्यों यूज करते हैं? Good. So in real time, logging is a very helpful in your real time application if you're developing for product-based company or any production environment. So in a production environment, logging का क्या काम है ना? क्योंकि application will be deployed on a central server. It is not like that in your local system, local server application run कर रहा है. नहीं, कोई central server पे run कर रहा होगा. And whatever modification, you are not like that. You are creating any project from the scratch. कोई बहुत बड़ी प्रोजेक्ट होगी, आपको उसमें मेंटेनेंस के लिए आप जाओगे, वहां पे कुछ पैच कोड लिखोगे, यू नीड टू मॉडिफाई सम कोड, यू नीड टू ऐड सम फीचर, राइट? यू नीड टू कमिट योर कोड वेयर द मेन रिपोजिटरी इज देयर. नाउ इफ समथिंग गोज रॉन्ग, कुछ भी अगर प्रॉब्लम हुआ या फिर कितने रिक्वेस्ट जा रहे हैं, हमें अपने एप्लीकेशन को ट्रेस करना है, चेक करना है, तो आप क्या करोगे? वहां पे एप्लीकेशन आपके सिस्टम पे रन नहीं करेगा. दैट विल बी रन ऑन अ सेंट्रल सर्वर. नाउ whatever the system.out.println if you are writing, generally what we do that in our application, if you want to put some log, what we can do, we can put some SOP statement. We can keep some SOP statement here, और हम चेक कर सकते हैं to trace our flow of our application. Let's say that ये application हमारा start तो हो गया लेकिन run नहीं कर रहा है, कोई endpoint काम नहीं कर रही है, तो उस time हम कैसे check करेंगे? First of all, very simple thing, that is go to your class, right? This is your controller, and check out that in your API, put that some message like that here. Inside get method, inside you can say that add method. Now if I run the application, hit the endpoint, and I will check key this statement should be printed on the console. अगर ये प्रिंट कर रहा है मतलब ये endpoint कंट्रोल मेथड के अंदर जा रही है, यहां से आगे कुछ प्रॉब्लम होगा. लेकिन अगर ये स्टेटमेंट भी प्रिंट ना करे, इसका मतलब क्या है कि इस मेथड के अंदर हमारा कंट्रोल जा ही नहीं रहा है. So using some log, what we can do, we can debug our application. This is the first thing. Not only that, using the log, we can check out that कि किस method पे सबसे ज़्यादा call आ रहे हैं, किस time पे सबसे ज़्यादा call आ रहा है. Logs are very helpful. Let's say that you have a particular e-commerce website. So you can, based on the log messages, you can check out that which month, which product getting too much hit. सबसे ज्यादा कॉल, सबसे ज्यादा रिक्वेस्ट किस प्रोडक्ट के लिए आ रहा है. Based on that, we can take some decision, right? We can trace our application flow. We can do lots of activity using logs. But the problem is that using system.out.println, if you're keeping the log, these logs will be printed out where? On a console, on a server console. So generally what we used to do that in real time, we keep the log messages in some external files. किसी हम दूसरे फाइल में अपने फॉर्मेट के अकॉर्डिंग हम लॉग मैसेज निकाल लेंगे, and we can request the log. Give me the 100 logs, give me the 1000 log, give me that day particular log. So that those entire log we are going to get, and based on the log messages, we are able to track our application. We are able to trace our application, find the information about that. Now, even if you'll notice, this is while running our Spring Boot project. This entire thing is what? It is also a log message. If you notice this one, using the log messages, you are able to. ये सब क्या लिखे हैं यहाँ पे? They are the log message. Here is your pool is created, Hikari pool. That means your data source pool is created. The SQL dialect is there, right? You'll able to see that here your server will be started. So lots of logs Spring Boot also release for you, so that you'll get that you can trace yourself. And logs also having some category like warn, info, error, debug. So those many categories are also there. You can categorize those log messages, right? Now, how we can play with the log message in Spring Boot? Let's have some idea about that. So what is a log message? The message which show the flow of execution. Flow of execution in the application are called the log message. आपके application का execution flow बताया. But not only that, lots of help you can take from the log. Server logs are an important part of development that record the activities or event that the system is performing at any given point of time. मतलब क्या क्या system में हो रहा है? Using that log, you are able to trace. You are able to check. You can decide. You can take a decision. Now, application log is a powerful development tool that is important for production level support and debugging. Writing this log message using system.out.println statement is not industry standard. क्यों? क्योंकि system.out.println message will be written to the console using a single threaded process. Only a single threaded process, that message will be printed on the console. Now, SOP statement message cannot be written to the file timely. या किसी external file पे time के हिसाब से वो roll out करता रहे और लिखता जाए. We cannot do that one. SOP message cannot be categorized. That means it cannot categorize कि ये log message किस तरह का है. ये information के लिए है या फिर कोई severe problem आ रही है उसके लिए हमने categorize कर रखा है या फिर normal tracing के लिए हमने categorize कर रखा है. Right? And the fourth one, we cannot enable or disable a specific type of log message based on our requirement. This is the super important part. The log messages can be enabled and disabled. A specific type of log message कि हम चाहते हैं कि अभी हमारे पास information वाले ही log message enable हो जाए. So only the information related log message will come. Whatever it is here, Spring Boot by default enable the info related log message. Now, if you want, you can enable the trace related and debug related log message as well. और जब चाहे तब आप इसे disable भी कर सकते हो, जब चाहे आप इसे enable भी कर सकते हो. Make sense? But SOP statement को हम disable या enable नहीं कर सकते at runtime based on our requirement. Now, to solve this problem, we should go to use logging framework that generated log message. Some of the logging frameworks are, मतलब उसके लिए हमें logging framework use करना है, and we have lots of frameworks are there in the market. Now, framework की use हम बाद में करते हैं. पहले तो normal हमारे पास एक Java की internal API में ही एक हमारे पास एक API है, मतलब एक package है Java JDK main package में ही. You need not use any third party framework. Normal core Java में ही हमारे पास एक logging का framework मौजूद है. जैसे collection framework Java का core part है, Hibernate core Java का part नहीं, right? Spring is not a part of core Java. So similarly here, this is a logging java.util logging API. This is a one native framework, you can say that, and it is there is a part of your core Java. जहाँ पे भी आप उसका भी यहाँ पे भी हमारे पास कुछ log related classes हैं जिनका हम use कर सकते हैं. This is there in from Java 1.0 version, but it is having very basic feature. This API is not useful to generate log message for industry standard. आप इसमें सिर्फ नॉर्मली लॉग मैसेज को कैटेगराइज कर सकते हैं, बाकी ये फाइल पे राइट करना, इसे डायनेमिकली इनेबल डिसेबल करना, those type of features are not there. But some you can categorize. You have some facilities are there using this in the java.util.logging package. Some classes are there using that you can use some log. So that's why industry uses what these framework like log4j, logback, log4j2. So initially, that first logging framework was log4j. It was quite popular. It was from Apache Foundation. Tomcat server, that foundation used to give. Apache Foundation is an open source community. Lots of open source frameworks given by the Apache. Apache Kafka, Apache Struts, Apache Tomcat. So JSP, lots of things it has given. Jasper also it has given. So log4j is one of also the logging framework given by the Apache Foundation. This was the mostly used framework in the early days. पहले ये बहुत ज़्यादा use होता था. Now, not used in the active development due to the performance and more flexibility. इसमें अभी भी कोई कंपनी अभी भी यूज करती है log4j, लेकिन इसमें परफॉर्मेंस का कुछ इश्यू है, some flexibility issue है. So better framework again came. That is logback. It is a successor of log4j with improved performance and much more flexibility. It is the most important or most popular logging framework in current development, and it is also used along with SLF4j, one standard API. So what is this SLF4j? We are going to talk about that one. This SLF4j के बारे में ये क्या है? लेकिन अभी पहले कंसंट्रेट करते हैं logback. Logback ये log4j का सक्सेसर है. इसमें जो प्रॉब्लम थी ये सारी चीज दूर होके इस logback के अंदर आ चुका है. And then it is recommended to use this logback. And even your Spring Boot is using logback only. Spring Boot same, basically internally using logback. Log4j2. This is the what most advanced logging framework. उसके बाद ये log4j वाले उठे और इन्होंने अपने framework को और भी powerful बनाया by overcoming this type of problem, and they came with the log4j2. It is the most advanced logging framework which supports lazy loading log messages, async logging, and also can be used with SLF4j here. इस SLF4j के साथ हम इसे भी use कर सकते हैं. It is having some other features also. But our Spring Boot uses what? Logback. This API only by default. Log4j2 is recently introduced. अभी भी ये पूरी तरह से कोई कंपनी यूज कर रही है, लेकिन आप चाहो तो अभी आप Spring Boot के अंदर यूज कर सकते हो. You can exclude the logback and you can include this log4j2 as well to get some more feature of logging. What are those features? We are going to talk in a moment. Till this part, I hope everyone is comfortable. Please confirm. What is the logging? Why we use the logging? What is log4j? What is logback? What is the logback or log4j2? The most important part is SLF4j. What is this SLF4j? We are going to discuss in a moment. Now, the logging framework allows us to generate 5 types of log message with priority level. तो सबसे कम प्रायोरिटी किसकी है? ट्रेस की. Trace, then after debug, then after info, then warn, and then error. What is the meaning of this? These are the, you can say the category, type, you can say level of the log message. कि किस तरह के log message है. अब किस टाइम पे हम कौन सा मैसेज यूज करते हैं आप कैटेगराइज कर सकते हो. फॉर एग्जांपल error log message are the serious issue that affect the significant part, और मतलब मोस्ट सीरियस कंडीशन, या फिर जैसे सपोज आपके एक्सेप्शन के log message आपको लिखना है कैच ब्लॉक के अंदर. So inside that you can utilize error logs, right? So error logs are the most urgent default log message in the logging framework. Now, error logs, you can say the database connection failure, configuration error, that is a severe error. Some problems are there, might be there. Using that, some exception came there. You can put some log message, and those log message you can categorize using as an error. ये आपका exception handling वाला error class नहीं. This is one category of your log. The next one, warn. It's just like that, your warning. So इसका level warn का error से थोड़ा सा कम है. Warning log are the used to indicate potential problem that might cause error and should be monitored in case they fail. Of course, the context of warning is subjected to the developer and situation. So warning log might vary from system to system. किस तरह का warning है? Suppose some warning can be ignored. Let's say that here some warnings are there in a Spring Boot log message कि कोई configuration missing है आपकी, या फिर ORM का जो कुछ deprecation classes वगैरह आप use कर रहे हो, some warnings are there. Okay. Now this info is the mostly used log category. It is the default logging label is set by the Spring Boot. ये Spring Boot का default logging label है. If no configurations are made, the log labels is automatically set to the info. These steps or these types of logs are informations that is not normally needed, but it is useful in situation like production code, debugging, or determining where certain data is manipulated. मतलब आप info की category में किसी भी तरह के message को डाल सकते हो. Let's say that user created or user stored in the database connection created. Just like that, we put some comment now. Similar kind of thing, you can use that using info. Similar kind of comment, let's say ki this method got executed, or your connection got established, your repository got called, or user is created, it has the data is got updated. Any kind of message you can keep so that in your log message, कि कल को आप log message देखोगे तो पता चल जाएगा कि हमारा flow कैसे चल रहा है. It is, you can say that default one SOP statement, just like keeping, you can put that log as an info. Okay, debug किस लिए हम यूज करते हैं? debug का काम होता है बस as name suggests debug करने के लिए. So log includes more detailed specific information that is not needed in normal situation. ये normal situation में के लिए यूज नहीं होता है. debug का हम यूज तब करते हैं जब हमें किसी पे सपोज डाउट हो कि ये हमारा काम करेगा या नहीं करेगा, यहाँ पे कंट्रोल जा रहा है या नहीं जा रहा है, इसे चेक करना है. In that case, you can keep that debug message, debug type of message. These options set as a log when a developer is trying to deep trace a problem or a bug that is hard to trace. So उस केस में आप debug से आप categorize कर सकते हो कि हम debug enable कर देंगे तो वहां पे हमें वो सारे flow दिखा देगा कि कहाँ कहाँ पे हमारा control flow हो रहा है. The last category is the trace. It is a more granular version of debug. ये trace क्या है कि ये छोटी छोटी चीजों के लिए भी हम लिख देते हैं कि ये और भी काफी छोटा, debug से भी छोटा है. यहाँ पे variable declare हुआ है, यहाँ पे method call हुआ है, यहाँ पे suppose it is using recursion, it is using a particular any kind of, let's say that for loop or while loop it is using. Here this values got assigned. So this type of message you can put that using trace. It is the most granular version of debug. Trace logs are exhaustive. Imagine logging in every single operation in a system is doing, from starting a service, initializing new variable, and calling a method, anything you can say that. Now, in order for urgency, कि किस log message पे ज़्यादा हमें ध्यान देना चाहिए? Of course, error is the most urgent, while trace is the least. Everything except error are ignorable. Yes, you can say that, but इसकी अलग-अलग category है. कब हमें कौन सा use करना है? कि अगर आपको error पे ध्यान, let's say that you want that, I want to check कि क्या problem आ रही है. Of course, error should be that means it is a very urgent, you need to just look after this error type of message. But info का भी उतना ही importance है. Info का भी उतना importance है. Debug का भी उतना ही importance है. If you start your application, suppose that something is not working as expected, so that you can enable your debug message. और चेक करते हैं debug वाले log हमने कहाँ लगा रखे हैं, वो सारे enable हो जाएंगे. पता चल जाएगा कि flow हमारा कहाँ तक जा रहा है application. Debug में भी नहीं पकड़ा गया तो हम trace वाला enable कर देंगे. ट्रेस वाला तो बता ही देगा कि कहाँ पे हमारा फ्लो कहाँ पे रुक रहा है, right? Debug is a different, it is not like that while debugging your application you put up breakpoints. It's not like that. It will just put the details in your console or your log messages, right? Okay, so the default log label of the Spring Boot is info when no manual configuration is set. Now listen carefully. Log4j allows programmer to specify the logger level for retrieving the log messages. आपको ये log4j या फिर आप इसकी बात कर लें logback या फिर log4j2, ये तीनों फ्रेमवर्क क्या करता है कि हमें प्रोग्रामर को ये स्पेसिफाई करता है कि आप logger level स्पेसिफाई कर दो. For example, if the logger level is taken as warm, then the application generates only those log messages whose log levels are greater than or equal to warm. मतलब ऐसा नहीं है कि अगर हमने वार्न सेट कर दिया तो सिर्फ वार्निंग वाले ही मैसेज शो करेंगे. इट्स नॉट लाइक दैट. इट विल शो दैट वार्न और उससे बड़े वाले सारे भी हमारे जितने भी लॉग लेवल है वो सब के सब डिस्प्ले हो जाएंगे बेस्ड ऑन दिस वन. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, बाय डिफॉल्ट इट इज अ info related. Spring Boot set the log label as info. मतलब इन्फो के तो सारे मैसेज प्रिंट होंगे ही होंगे इन्फो लेवल के. इनफैक्ट अगर कोई वार्निंग वाले मैसेज हो और एरर वाले हो वो भी प्रिंट हो जाएंगे. That's why even though the Spring security is a warn info, but still you are able to see that warn. Make sense? Now अगर आपने debug वाला सेट कर दिया log level, इसका मतलब debug के तो सारे मैसेज प्रिंट होंगे ही होंगे. इनफैक्ट info, warn, error also will be printed. और अगर हमने ट्रेस का अगर हमने इनेबल कर दिया तो इट्स नॉट लाइक दैट कि सिर्फ ट्रेस वाले मैसेज प्रिंट हो जाए. नहीं, ट्रेस, डिबग, इन्फो, एरर, वार्न ये सारे मैसेज प्रिंट हो जाए. ऑफ कोर्स यू हैव सम कॉन्फ़िगरेशंस आर देयर, यू कैन डू सम कॉन्फ़िगरेशन जिससे आप ये कर सकते हो कि एक फाइल के अंदर वार्न वाला मैसेज जाए, एक फाइल के अंदर एरर वाले मैसेज जाए, एक फाइल के अंदर डिबग वाले मैसेज जाए. Just like that you can categorize, you can configure those things. How to do that we will see here. But till this part, I hope everyone is comfortable. Please confirm. Good. Here is a time of a small break, and after the break, we will discussing about this logging. That means what are the different main objects, and we will see the practical part. That means how we can generate the log label, how we can play with the log label, and how we can generate the log message in a different file, rolling files. How we can customize that, categorize those log messages in different files. कि error वाले log message दूसरे file में आ जाए, warn वाले log message दूसरे file में आ जाए. We will see that after a short break. So this is the time 10:10. We'll come back by 10:20. Is it okay? Please confirm. Cool. So let's take a break. Let me pause the recording. Okay, welcome back. So I hope everyone got the clarity here. What is the meaning of logging? What is the importance of logging in our project? Please confirm. Cool. So we have discussed about that one. Now let's talk about that in logging framework. The three important objects are there. तीन तरह के object होते हैं किसी भी logging framework में. The first one is a logger object. This is the important object, and based on this logger object, you can do some logging. So basically, it enables a logging in a given Java class. हर class के लिए आपको एक logger object लेना होगा और उसी object के अंदर methods होते हैं, info, debug, इससे आप log message put कर सकते हैं. Now the second one is the appender object. Appender object में destination कहाँ पे आप log message write करना चाहते हो. So we have a different type of appenders are there. Like file appenders are there, console appenders are there. By default, it is a console appender. Then after rolling file appender, जो कि rolling file का मतलब क्या होता है कि कुछ वो certain threshold होते हैं file के 10 MB, 20 MB, and you can customize. Once the 10 MB file is there, then पुराने वाले log message अपने आप delete होते चले जाएंगे. Some you can specify कि size basis पे आपको roll over करना है या फिर daily करना है, hourly करना है, how you are going to do that. Then after JDBC appender, using that those log messages you can persist in your database as well. SMTP, by using that you can send some mail also those log messages you can send. Then JMS, this is also one messaging type of appender is also there. So ये log message आप basically इसे specify करते हो appender से where, what is the destination of the log message. Now the third object is the layout object. कि log message को किस format में print करना है. Specifies the format of printing this log message. Simple layout में print करना है, HTML में print करना है, pattern layout की किसी specific pattern में हमें print करना है. Which type of pattern we are going to use that for particular logging. We are going to discuss about these things. Now, note here, we need to specify the logging configuration inside a separate properties file form in the form of the key value pair inside an XML file. That means आपको अगर logging की configuration अगर आपको set करने हैं कि हमारा rollover file हो या किस तरह का appender हो या फिर किस format का हमारे पास log message आए, so you need to define that in your a separate properties file. वो properties file क्या क्या होगा? अगर आप Spring Boot use कर रहे हो तो आपका favorite properties file application.properties. लेकिन अगर आप you are using that is logging framework outside this Spring Boot environment, so in that case Spring Boot में हमारे पास दो तरह के हैं. एक तो application.properties, यहाँ पे भी कंफिगर कर सकते हो आप, और एक लॉगिंग के लिए स्पेसिफिक हमारे पास XML फाइल होता है, आप यहाँ पे भी पुट कर सकते हो.
logback minus spring.xml in a XML file also, जहां पे भी आप स्प्रिंग बूट में लॉगबैक के कॉन्फ़िगरेशन को पुट कर सकते हो। क्यों सर, अगर हमारे पास यही फाइल है तो क्या होता है कभी कभी की एप्लीकेशन डॉट प्रॉपर्टीज में काफी ज्यादा आपके पास इंफॉर्मेशन आपने फिल कर रखी है, राइट? So those files are there, right? You have configured lots of information in your application dot properties. This is the application related thing. और आप चाहते हो कि लॉगिंग वाले कॉन्फ़िगरेशन को हम किसी सेपरेट फाइल में मेंटेन करें, उसके डिटेल्स को। So you can take that a separate file, logback dash spring.xml in the same resources folder, and then this file will maintain your logging configuration explicitly. लेकिन छोटे मोटे कॉन्फ़िगरेशन को आप जिस फाइल में मेंटेन कर सकते हो। और अगर आपका नॉर्मल एप्लीकेशन है देन यू नीड टू क्रिएट logback.xml। अगर log4j यूज कर रहे हो तो log4j.properties, दैट मींस either in the properties or either in the XML file you can mention your configuration about your logging. Does it make sense? Please confirm. Hello? Cool. Now let's talk about little bit about the SLF4j and then after we will see the practical part. ये SLF4j क्या है? SLF4j is like a facade. That means what? This facade will do what? Basically this facade you can say that ये सारे लॉगिंग फ्रेमवर्क को एक छत के नीचे इसने ला दिया। It's the simple API, standard API. Using this API you can work with any logging framework. आप log4j के साथ भी काम कर सकते हो, application that here logback के साथ भी काम कर सकते हो। In fact you can work with the log4j too as well. So that is what you can say, it is just like your JPA जैसे है ना हमारा, कि उसके अंदर आप चाहो तो हाइबरनेट के साथ भी काम कर सकते हो। यू कैन वर्क विद हाइबरनेट आल्सो, यू कैन वर्क विद द टॉप लिंक, इक्लिप्स लिंक, एनीथिंग। So just like that is the standard API. It acts like a facade for different logging framework. Like you can also use that Java के util logging भी आप utilize कर सकते हो, logback, log4j, log4j2 as well. It offers a generic API making the logging independent of actual implementation. That means you need not learn about this logback separately, log4j separately, कि इसमें हम कौन सा मेथड यूज कर रहे हैं, यहाँ पे कौन सा मेथड यूज कर रहे हैं। Just you need to learn this simple SLF4j API. And if you have the knowledge about SLF4j API, तो आप किसी भी लॉगिंग फ्रेमवर्क के साथ काम कर सकते हो। Make sense? It make your application logging independent. Now, this allows the different logging framework to coexist. It also helps migrate from one framework to another framework by just adding the dependencies inside form.xml. And apart from the standard API, it offers some syntactical sugar also. इसमें दो चीजें हैं। पहला क्या कि SLF4j के साथ सबसे बड़ी प्लस पॉइंट क्या है कि आपको, अब फॉर एग्जांपल हम लॉगबैक पे काम कर रहे हैं, हमारा स्प्रिंग बूट, हम चाहते हैं लॉगबैक ना यूज करें, हम log4j2 यूज करें। इसके अंदर काफी नई नई चीजें, असिंक लॉगिंग, या फिर हमारे पास कुछ और नई नई फीचर आई हैं, लेजी लोडिंग, लेजी लॉगिंग की मैसेज भी है हमारे पास ऑप्शन है। तो अगर हम वो चाहते हैं तो हमें कुछ नहीं करना है, बस form.xml में हमारी एपीआई मेथड कॉल वही रहेंगी, बस form.xml में एक्सक्लूजन का हम टैग लगा देंगे और लॉगबैक को एक्सक्लूड करके log4j2 या फिर log4j किसी को भी हम इंक्लूड कर सकते हैं। वी नीड नॉट चेंज आवर कोड बिकॉज यू आर यूजिंग अ स्टैंडर्ड एपीआई, बस आपको उसका इंप्लीमेंटेशन बदल देंगे। Okay, now enough theory, let's see some practical part. Spring Boot by default uses logback framework for logging, and SLF4j API is also included in our Spring Boot starter project. आपके पास SLF4j और logging के dependency आपके पास already पड़ी हुई है, logback और SLF4j. By default, it is there in our Spring Boot. You need not add any kind of external dependencies. If you notice in your any Spring Boot project, and if you go to the Maven dependencies, and you will see here you have even log4j dependency is also there. Then after logback core is also there, logback classic is also there, log4j2 is not there, log4j hai purana wala, and here SLF4j is also there, logback is also there, and SLF4j API is also there. So you need not worry about adding any kind of dependency in your project in order to utilize the logging. Okay, in Spring Boot, the default logging level is info, which means from info to error, all the log messages will be visible on the console. So here I have one example. Let me just do that one. There's all of them. I'm creating a simple Spring Boot project. Spring logging. And here I'm using this, let's say that Lombok, or let's say simply Spring Web and DevTools. That's it. I'm not adding any other dependencies. Next. And here I'm creating one particular class in the same package. The class name, let's stick to here, demo controller. You can have your services and your repository, whatever, but it have this demo controller, which will be the REST controller. And this will have one endpoint. So endpoint, let's say that I have one hello API. Hello API, which is a git mapping, and it will return welcome to login. Cool. Now, अभी हमें क्या करना है, logger को activate करना है. So first of all, you need what? A logger object, जो कि हमें logger को enable करे. So there's a one logger class, and now you'll see there how many loggers are there. That is logback classic में एक logger class है. java.lang.system class के अंदर एक interface package के अंदर एक system यहाँ पे एक logger interface है. In java.util package, this is your core Java API. Logger is a class. Logging log4j, there's an interface, and SLF4j. Can you guess which logger we need to use or we should use? किसका use करना चाहिए? Yes, that is SLF4j. SLF4j because it is a standard API. We should not use java.util logging because it is having some performance issue and not up to the mark. It is not used in the active development environment. We always go for the standard API SLF4j logger, and you need to create the logger object. So logger object, how we create that? There is a one class called logger factory, and in that get logger of your particular class. So you need to use logger. Is equal to logger factory dot get logger. And specify आपकी किस class के लिए logger लेना है. So I need that demo controller dot class. So this is the first thing you need to take a logger object. By using this, your logger will be activated. Now in this logger object, we have a different methods are there. By using that, you can put your all the log messages. What are those? Let me just copy paste. So copy this. Post here. So we have this type of messages like log.trace. To put that log messages related to the trace, let's say that if you're declaring any variable or calling any method, whatever, debug, info, warn, error. So ये हमने बस छोटे-छोटे SOP statement की तरह हमने log messages put कर रखे हैं, right? Let's save this one and see that in your notes. So in order to activate the debug and trace without changing the configuration, we need to do some configuration in our application.properties. So पहले इस application को run करते हैं और check करते हैं कि इस application का API हमारा console पे कौन सा log message print हो रहा है. So I click on your application, run as. So cool. So right now, just my server got started. Let me just give the request here. So localhost 8080 and /hello. So welcome to logging app. And now you'll see that in your console. So which type of message is printing? So if you notice, Let me drag this. Here you will notice info, warn, and error. These messages are printed. Got the point here? Because the default message level is what? Info. तो info के बाद वाले जितने भी हमारे मैसेज होंगे तो info, warn, error, all this will be printed. और ये कहाँ से print हो रहा है? From this demo controller class. Make sense? Please confirm. Good. So here you'll notice that here we have just used that info logger. So info is a default one, but I don't want. I'm not able to see that these messages that debug and this trace type of message I'm not able to see. तो इन मैसेज को देखने के लिए क्या करना होगा? So without we need not do the comment and uncomment in our application. Simply we can go to the application.properties and we can change the logging level. So we can put this property logging.level.root is equal to what? Or trace, whatever you want. So let's stop this and go to the application.properties and add this configuration. Logging.label.root is equal to warn. अब क्या होगा? ये आपके warn से ऊपर वाले सारे मैसेज प्रिंट कर देगा. Now let me just launch my application and see the output here. So अभी आपको कौन-कौन से मैसेज दिखाई देंगे? Please tell me here. अगर हमारा लॉगिंग लेबल हमने वार्न सेट किया है तो कौन कौन से मैसेज दिखाई देंगे? वार्न एंड एरर, वार्न एंड एरर. नाउ द इंटरेस्टिंग थिंग इज दैट लेट मी जस्ट लॉन्च द एप्लीकेशन एंड सी हियर. You will notice this time I'm not able to see any message in my console right now. My server is started and I'm not able to see any message. But if I give the request to my endpoint, and here you will notice those messages, warn and error message, I'm able to see that from my demo controller. मतलब आपने जो ये कॉन्फ़िगरेशन दिया है ये सिर्फ अपने क्लास के लिए नहीं दिया है बल्कि आपने पूरे रूट लेवल, क्योंकि स्प्रिंग बूट के अंदर बहुत सारे क्लासेस हैं, बहुत सारे क्लासेस में लॉगिंग लेवल ऑलरेडी सेट है वहां पे. हर क्लासेस के अंदर डिफॉल्ट लेट्स से दैट अगर आपको डिस्पैचर सर्वलेट क्लास आपको दिखता है सो हिट दैट कंट्रोल शिफ्ट एंड टी and search that dispatcher servlet. So this is your dispatcher servlet. So Spring Framework Web Servlet, dispatcher servlet class. And if you notice, इसके अंदर भी बहुत सारे log messages होंगे. So you can notice some of the log messages here. Logger.trace is enabled, debug, right? So ये सारे log message हमारे क्या होंगे? ये सारे enable हो जाएंगे. तो अगर हमने यहाँ पे application.properties we put that root, so not only for our class demo controller, in fact the predefined classes log label also we are setting. Make sense? But we don't want to do that. हम चाहते हैं कि सिर्फ demo controller का हम log label set करें. In that case we need to specify the different configuration. What are those? You need to specify here logging label.com, that means here com.masai. So इस package का. So if I will set this one, let me put that in a comment. This hash is used to give the comment in your properties file and paste this one. So I'm setting that logging label. किसके लिए? .com.masai. That means com.masai package. So com.masai package के जितने भी classes होंगे, उस package से और उसके child package से classes, सबके लिए हमने set कर दिया label trace. So only those package related classes and their sub package classes, the label is set to the trace. But remaining will not work as this. Remaining will be by default info. Now, if I just stop this and relaunch my application, so you'll able to see the normal log messages, but from our class, the message will be the trace. Trace का मतलब क्या होगा? सारे message print हो जाएंगे. मतलब trace तो होगा ही होगा, साथ में उसके ऊपर वाले भी सारे message print हो जाएंगे. So here you will able to see that info, debug, those messages got printed. Here it is. And now you will notice if I get the request and in the console, you will see that trace, debug, info, warn, error, all the messages are printed. Does it make sense? Please confirm. So you can set that. You can set कि किस package के किस सब package के हमें log level set करना है. And using that, you will get the particular log message. Okay. So this is the simplest one you can utilize here. So which type of message we have to write? We will see that. We will see that. कि आपको कौन सा log message कहाँ write करना है. We will see that. Now there is another important thing. When we build our application, we get a jar file. जब हम अपने एप्लीकेशन को बिल्ड करते हैं हमारा क्या होता है एक जार फाइल मिलता है बिकॉज द मेवन प्रोजेक्ट आई होप यू नो दैट हाउ टू बिल्ड योर एप्लीकेशन इन मेवन राइट so once you have the jar file you can launch your application from command prompt as well like by using this command java -jar and this your jar file application jar file और हम वहां से भी log level enable कर सकते हैं what is the meaning of this let me show one example so ये हमारे पास ये प्रोजेक्ट जो है हम क्या कर रहे हैं इसका log level हमने यहाँ पे ट्रेस कर रखा है let it be or let me stop the server and I am building this application. How to build the Spring Boot application or Maven project? I hope everyone is aware with this. So go to the Maven and run as and Maven build. Type your goal that is clean package. And it will automatically compile your code, test your code, and if you have the any test, it will be tested and it will do some building of your application and you are going to get a jar file. I hope you are aware how to build your application. Please confirm. No? You might have learned there in your while learning the Maven. Okay, no problem. This is the way how we can, while running this one, this Maven command, आपका application run होगा सारे test cases वगैरह. How to run the test cases? We have the session of the unit testing. So here is the build success. And you are going to see that your artifact is generated. Here it is in your project in a target folder. And here is your jar file. That is target folder के अंदर spring logging app 0.1 snapshot.jar. Okay. So this jar file ये कहाँ पे मिलेगा आपको? You can access. So आपने saying can you show again? So very simple. You can right click on the project, go to the run as. There is a one Maven build command is there where ... is there. Click on this and Maven goal you need to set. So here clean मतलब पहले वाले सारे जो build है वो clean हो जाए, destroy हो जाए, and then you can use package. You can use other way also. You can other commands are also there, but let's just use the package. You can use install as well, but it will be package like this. And click on run. Automatically, it will going to run your application, run the test cases, and then you will notice. Let's refresh the project. And you will notice there is a one target folder is there. Target folder is there here. Inside the target folder, you will notice it is here it is, this target. In the target, here is your main jar file, which is launchable jar file. तो आप इस jar file को आप यहाँ पे इस location पे चले जाओ, ये file मिल जाएगा आपको. Go to the properties, and this is the location. So you can directly navigate by from here. Clicking this button, and here it is. The D drive हमारे work space में ये application है और उसके अंदर target folder के अंदर this jar file is there, right? So this jar file you can launch from anywhere और आपका Spring Boot चालू हो जाएगा. So let me show that. So let me copy the name and open the terminal from here. Command prompt. At the same location, here it is. You need to type this command. What is this? That is Java -jar and your jar file. Java -jar and .jar. इससे क्या होगा आपका स्प्रिंग बूट एप्लीकेशन ये जार फाइल आप कहीं पे भी किसी को दे दो ये आपका एप्लीकेशन एज इट इज स्टार्ट हो जाएगा. Now let's see here. Once I hit the command, okay, it is having some problem. What is that? Java unsupported class version. ये प्रॉब्लम क्यों आ रहा है मेरे सिस्टम में? Because Java 17 वर्जन में हमने ये प्रोजेक्ट बना रखा है. Java 17 में और मेरे सिस्टम में जो Java रन कर रहा है ना, let me check out that Java version here in my system. So Java minus version. So it is 1.8. तो हमें क्या करना होगा? Java 17 का पाथ सेट करना पड़ेगा. Let me check out that in my system Java 17 is installed or not. Yeah, Java 17 is there, JDK bin, and here it is. Copy this path, go to the my computer, properties. Not here. Advanced system setting. ये सिंपल, आप जो पहले दिन जावा में पढ़े थे ना, जावा के क्लास पाथ को हम कैसे सेट करते हैं, and system variable, and here you will see that there is an option called path. Edit. Java 1.8 is already there, हम इसे हटा देते हैं, so just delete this, and Java JDK file path is also there. Let me just delete this one as well, and I'm setting that new is this path and should be moved up. कि पहले वाला कोई पाथ सेट हो तो इसे ओवरराइड कर दे. Next, okay. Yes. This is a way to set the Java path. I hope everyone is aware with this. Now let me check my Java version is changed or not. Open the terminal and check out that Java dash version. So yes, it is 17 version. सर ये आपने क्या किया था अभी, किसी को डाउट है क्या ये जावा के पाथ को सेट करने में, कैसे हम सेट करते हैं? Anyone please tell me here. Okay, no, somebody is saying no, most of the people, everyone is comfortable, but some people is saying yes. Listen, if you have any doubt, so I recommend you to just watch your J111 session. J111 का पहला सेशन कि हम JDK कैसे इंस्टॉल करते हैं और उसके पाथ को हम कैसे सेट करते हैं अपने कंप्यूटर के अंदर, कि हम वहाँ नोटपैड पे क्लास को लिखे और टर्मिनल से कंपाइल करके रन कर लें. And at least you should have that particular knowledge. So at least you should execute one Java application in your command prompt and notepad without using any ID. So nothing great here. Now let me just go back once again. हमारा jar file ये बन चुका था, इस jar file को हम run करने वाले हैं. This time it should run. So here is my jar file in the target folder. So in the same location, I am opening the terminal. Here it is. And let me just copy this jar file name once again. And now I will try to execute this. Java -jar is this .jar. This time it should launch. So here is your Spring Boot project is going to start, and your embedded server will be started. Just access, allow access, and here you will notice your server got started. So your server is started, and you will see that Tomcat server on 8084. So I have launched my application without ID. So this is a way. And you will see that these log messages got printed. Now I'm able to access my API. Let me just give that hello. And here I'm able to access the output. See that in a terminal. Here your log messages should be printed. Okay, log messages not printing here. Yeah, it is printed here. So Tomcat server is started. Oh, actually, I have given the trace, right? So you can specify that while, if you want to stop this, Control C, it will be stopped. And here log messages are printed. That is, since I have applied the trace, but now you can do what? You can launch your application by specifying your debug point as well. तो आप यहाँ पे debug point आप specify कर सकते हो by using dash dash, not debug, your logging level you can set. So you can say dash dash, I want to enable, let's say that info. Dash dash info is equal to true. मतलब हम info वाले log message को enable कर रहे हैं. If you mention that here, let's say that error, तो ये सिर्फ error वाला message हमें print करेगा. So since error for your normal one, so here it is, this application got started. Now let me give the request. Refresh the page. Now you notice this error message, and here error message of your demo controller, trace message. Just put that here. We will see that. We will just hold on a second. So you can see that here these log messages are also printed. So you can control the log messages by passing this command while running this your application. Let me just stop this. Cool. So by using that, you can run your application through the command prompt. ये log message हम कहाँ पे रखेंगे इसके बारे में हम बात करेंगे थोड़ी देर में. Now the last thing about this log messages is what customizing the logging pattern. अभी आप log message जो देख रहे हो आप कुछ ये इस pattern में print हो रहा है, right? If you are noticing this log messages, let me just clear the console and start the application. So these are the default pattern in which it is printing the log messages, right? अब ये pattern है क्या? Actually, you should understand this one. So ये pattern को हम customize भी अपने हिसाब से कर सकते हैं, लेकिन ये default जो pattern है, if you look at the default logging message format on the console of the Spring Boot project, it will be in the following format. ये कौन सा format है? So let me just copy this one statement from here and put the cursor, control and copy this and paste that this message. Now this is divided into some categories. So what are those categories? Let's see here. The first part is a date and time. The first part is your date and time कि किस date and time को ये log message generate हुआ है. So this is the date and T stand for your time. This is the time here, right? And the time zone. This is the first part, right? Now the second part indicates what? Log label. What is your log label? So this is a log label info. The third part is a process ID. कि which process ये जिस process से ये run हो रहा है हमारा, that ID is this process ID. The fourth part is the 3 separator. This one is that. Now the next one, that is the which thread is printing. कौन सा thread इस line को print कर रहा है. So it is that restarted main thread. It is printing this. Which thread it is there. So कौन सा thread इस statement को print कर रहा है. So you can notice here different thread could be there. So it is a restarted thread since we have it is automatically started. I have done some changes. So basically it's the restarted main thread. Okay, Ritik Rana is saying same pattern is used in Git bash today and I got the error in the same pattern. Yeah, that's what we are discussing, but we can change. Source class name of the logger. This is the next one. So this is the source class name of the logger. कि किस class के अंदर आपका log message है. So it is in the com.masai spring logging application. इसके अंदर ये log message था, right? हमने नहीं रखा था, ये default वाला log message है. And this is your what? Next part is log message. So वो log message है कौन सा? So this is your log message. Like this. It is printing this thing, whatever is there. This is our log message. Here it is. This one. This is the restarted main thread, and this is your log message. Exact आपका जो message है वो. So this is your what exactly your basically can we store this log message? Yes, of course. So this is the log message. It is the default format. But क्या हम इसे customize भी कर सकते हैं? Of course we can do that. So how we can customize this log message? Now we can specify the different logging pattern of for either console or file inside the file. हम file में भी कर सकते हैं या फिर console में भी कर सकते हैं. पहले तो ये देखते हैं कि हम file में save कैसे करते हैं. हम अपने लॉगिंग मैसेज को एक्सटर्नल फाइल में सेव कैसे करते हैं, फिर इसको हम देखेंगे कि पैटर्न को हम मॉडिफाई कैसे करेंगे. तो फाइल में प्रिंटिंग लॉग मैसेज टू द एक्सटर्नल फाइल बाय डिफॉल्ट लॉग मैसेज प्रिंटेड इन द कंसोल बट हाउ वी कैन सेव दैट इन अ फाइल. So we need to put that this one the path. So पहला ऑप्शन तो ये है logging dot file dot path and specify the path कि हमें किस फोल्डर में कौन सी डायरेक्टरी में लॉग मैसेज फाइल को सेव करना है. तो सिर्फ अगर आपने फोल्डर का नाम दिया है दैट फोल्डर मस्ट बी देयर. सो इनसाइड द माय स्प्रिंग logs folder by default spring.log file will be created. तो आपको बस एक फोल्डर का नाम देना है, ये अपने आप क्या होगा spring.log नाम का फाइल क्रिएट हो जाएगा और उसके अंदर सारे लॉग मैसेज चले जाएंगे. लेकिन आप चाहते हो कि कोई फाइल का नाम दे, हम स्प्रिंग लॉग डिफॉल्ट लॉग फाइल का नाम नहीं देना चाहते. आई वांट टू गिव माय कस्टम फाइल नेम. In that case, you need to give logging.file.name. Anyone you can utilize. So I'm just using the first one, that is logging.file.path. कि किस path में हमें log file को specify करना है. And in my D drive, let me just create this folder. So my Spring logs, this folder is there, and I have given this path. Let's save this one, and I'm going to start my application. Stop this and relaunch my application. So it is printed on the console as well, but now you will notice inside this folder, my Spring logs, and here spring.log is also created. One file is created, and you will see that those log messages are also in there in this file in the same pattern. जो pattern console पे follow हो रहा था, same pattern is printed over here. Does it make sense? Please confirm. Cool. आप अगर फाइल का नाम देना चाहते हो, कोई ऑलरेडी एग्जिस्टिंग फाइल है तो आप यहाँ पे दे सकते हो. लेट्स से दैट abc.log. And here you need to give that file. That is logging.file.name. Now ये फाइल का नाम बदल जाएगा according to that particular file. The file will be that log message will be stored in this file. Okay. Now अब इसे हम मैसेज को कस्टमाइज कैसे करते हैं? So for that one we need to use pattern. logging.pattern.file. अगर आपको फाइल के लिए पैटर्न कस्टमाइज करना है, अगर आपको कंसोल के लिए करना है, so you can format like this. logging.pattern.console. Here you can specify %d, that is your date. I'm not including the time. If you want to include, you can just give the t and then after specify the time format as well. This is the percentile label, console label, percentile msg, that means message, and percentile n, that means one break line. Okay, now you can add the color also. For that color, you can use to specify CLR. That means it will clear that, and here is you can specify that color as well. तो रेड कलर आपको कौन सा मैसेज स्पेसिफाई, पूरी लाइन को रेड करना है या फिर आप लेबल को रेड करना है, यू कैन स्पेसिफाई दिस पैटर्न. सो आई एम जस्ट गोइंग टू कॉपी दिस स्टेटमेंट and put this like that. कंसोल के लिए हमने ये पैटर्न प्रिंट कर दिया है and save this and let me just restart the application. I hope you can watch that one already. Let me just relaunch the application. Now you will see that कि कंसोल में ये जो लॉग मैसेज है ना, इनका फॉर्मेट चेंज हो चुका है. मतलब डेट टाइम नहीं है इस बार आपका, इन्फो लेवल एंड मैसेज. सो बेस्ड ऑन दैट यू कैन कस्टमाइज. क्योंकि ये रेड कलर हमने लगा रखा है सिर्फ इन्फो के लिए, सो रेड एज इन्फो, सो दिस वैल्यू इज कमिंग. कौन कौन से कलर सपोर्टेड है यहाँ पे, इट इज ऑलरेडी मेंशन दैट you can specify the colors like blue, cyan, faint, green, magenta, and red, yellow. According to that, you can specify the pattern. नहीं सर हम फाइल के लिए नहीं चाहते हैं, हम कंसोल के लिए नहीं, हम चाहते हैं फाइल के लिए. तो फाइल में कलर सपोर्ट नहीं करेगा वहां पे आपका, क्योंकि टेक्स्ट फाइल है, सो इट विल नॉट सपोर्ट द कलर. इट विल बी इन अ नॉर्मल फाइल. Got it? But in console the color support will be there, but file there will be no any color support. I hope you got that point here. Till this part, I hope everyone is comfortable. Cool. Now printing log message in external file, we discussed that. नाउ अब ये लॉग मैसेज जो आप यहाँ पे देख रहे हो ना, आपके हर क्लास में, सपोज दैट कि स्प्रिंग बूट में हमने ये लॉग मैसेज पुट किया है, ठीक है ना, डेमो कंट्रोलर के अंदर। कैसे किया है? बहुत ही सिंपल, 2 स्टेप। एक लॉगर लेना है आपको, और उसके बाद इसके अंदर मैसेज यूज करना है। ना आपको लॉगर यहाँ पे क्लास लेना पड़ेगा। फॉर एग्जाम्पल से दैट आई वांट टू प्रिंट सम मैसेज। अब पहली बात कि सर किस तरह के मैसेज को हम प्रिंट करते हैं, तो इससे भी एक सिंपल तरीका है हमारे पास। पहले वो तरीका देख लेते हैं, फिर जाके इसको हम सिंप्लीफाई करेंगे। वो क्या है कि अगर आप SLF4J लॉन्ग बुक यूज कर रहे हो ना, SLF4J, तो वहां पे आपको ये लॉगर लेने की जरूरत नहीं है। इनफैक्ट ये मेथड का फॉर्म भी शॉर्ट हो जाएगा। कैसे? इट विल पुट दैट इन अ कमेंट। This time I'm going to use this Lombok with SLF4J. So in that case, let me stop this server and I'm going to add Lombok dependency. I guess I have already added that. Let me check. Dev2 is there, Lombok is not there, right? So let me add the Lombok dependency. So save this one. Cool. So this Lombok got added and now I can utilize this Lombok. तो यहाँ पे getter setter वगैरह सब मिल जाएंगे, लेकिन अब ये कितना काम हमारा आसान कर देगा. You will see here. I need to just apply what? See here. @ SLF4J. So it is that Lombok package, Lombok external SLF4J. You need to use this annotation. और करना क्या है, अब आपको ये लॉगर लेने की जरूरत नहीं है, ये खुद ब खुद इस क्लास का लॉगर निकाल के दे देगा आपको. And then you need to use this message in much more shorter way. कैसे? Let me show you. You need to just use this name. So you'll have the message without any object. So log message. You can use that log, right? And you can use this log of that. This way. You can simply specify that SLF4J logger not required here. Lombok external SLF4J and log dot trace. Log that log object you are going to get automatically. So we're going to get that here. Log dot here. There is info. Pass that this message. Log dot trace. Trace message. Similarly, you have that other log dot warn. Similarly, log dot debug, log dot error. You have that message. Now you can just compare this logger dot debug and log dot info. Logger dot. So it is quite simple. Just log message directly. Log object you are going to get 100%. No need to take the logger object anymore. अगर आप SLF4J Lombok यूज नहीं कर रहे हो, you have to take the logger in each class. जैसे आपको सर्विस क्लास में लॉगर यूज करना है तो आप सर्विस क्लास का लॉगर लो आप. अगर आपको कंट्रोलर में यूज करना है तो दैट कंट्रोलर logger you need to activate, and then after using the logger object put the message. But in SLF4J just keep this SLF4J annotation. You will get one inbuilt log object, and in that you have proper messages are there, log.info, log.trace. Accordingly you can utilize. Is it not so simple? Please confirm. So I put that this logger in a comment and directly I'm using SLF4J annotation. Now this is the another one. We will discuss about this logging using in the separate XML file. कि हम application.properties में नहीं, हम चाहते हैं किसी दूसरे XML फाइल में लॉगिंग के हम पैटर्न को स्पेसिफाई करें और उसमें हम कुछ ऐसा स्पेसिफाई करें कि लॉग के जो मैसेजेज हो वो अलग अलग हो. So here we need to create a separate XML file inside a resource folder of a Spring Boot project in which can define the multiple log files with different log levels. मतलब हम यहाँ पे दिखा सकते हैं क्या कि आपके info वाले log हो, right? That should be printed. Yes, it is faster than SO. Actually, it's not super faster. You cannot say like that, but it is very, very helpful compared to system.out.println. Now you can see that here we can specify the property कि info वाले message हमारे info.log में print हो और error वाले message error.log में print हो. So similar kind of that, you can specify the pattern as well. You can specify the history कितने log message आपके यहाँ पे rolling policy आप maintain हो, right? Or you can specify much more than that कि आपके filter क्या हो and other things details. I have copied this file from the logback official website. So you can just keep that file in your application.property, that means in your resource folder, and change this one details according to your wish. Like that, here your packages, like that, here appender, that is the appender name, whatever the appender name you have defined here, log file, log error, and here we need to specify कि आप किस package का आप specify करें. Like that here. Let me in fact copy this one, and then after I will explain. So copy logback hyphen xml dot spring dot xml. कहाँ पे ये बनाना है file हमें? We need to specify inside resources, src resources, new file logback dash spring dot xml, and go to the source part. I'll push this part. And you need to change this. I have just given d/temp info log, and so you can give that here your wish. That is, I've created one folder already. Let me delete this already files, whatever it is created. My Spring logs, let me delete these files. And this folder name, copy. Paste here. So that's cool. And this is that logging file error. Reference from, and here logger name, you need to specify the package name. The root package you need to specify over here, com.msile. Kikis package call. If you don't specify this logger here root name, then what will happen? It will take that logging for your entire Spring Boot project. Okay, now you can you explain, sir, why we are using this file again? Now this XML file why we are using, even though we have done some configuration here, यहाँ पे भी कर सकते थे, लेकिन ये फाइल का पर्पस क्या है? I will explain that. Let me show you. सपोज कि आप काफी बड़ा प्रोजेक्ट है और आप लॉगिन के कॉन्फ़िगरेशन की कहाँ पे कौन से फाइल लेबल वगैरह आप एक्सटर्नलाइज करना चाहते हो, तो आपके लिए एक सॉल्यूशन है कि आप एक्सएमएल फाइल के अंदर वो कॉन्फ़िगरेशन लिख लो. इस फाइल की जरूरत ही नहीं है. इस फाइल में आप अपने एप्लीकेशन रिलेटेड कॉन्फ़िगरेशन लिखो, लॉगिन के कॉन्फ़िगरेशन आप सेपरेट फाइल में करिए, और इस कॉन्फ़िगरेशन के थ्रू आप ये सारी चीजें मेंशन कर सकते हो. फॉर एग्जांपल कभी कभी रिक्वायरमेंट होती है इंडस्ट्री के अंदर की हमें एरर वाले मैसेज को एक अलग फाइल में मेंटेन करना है, इन्फो वाले लॉग मैसेज को एक अलग फाइल में मेंटेन करना है. And in that logging, that means it should be the rollover by 30 messages or something like that. So you can specify by using this all the configuration कि किस पैटर्न में कौन से फॉर्मेट में हमें लॉग मैसेज को स्पेसिफाई करें. Does it make sense? Please confirm. Hello. Now let me just debug info trace. We copy this detail. And instead of logger, it should be log. like this. Now save this one, and I'm going to start my application. No, it's a not a logbook minus spring.xml. It's a logback. It's a logback hyphen spring.xml. This only name, right? Now my application got started. Let me give one request so that we can check. Cool. Now you will notice this time, let me go to that particular folder, D drive, my Spring logs, and here I got that two files here. Info. Here is the only info related message, and here you will see that error, where you will see that error and war related messages are there. Make sense? Please confirm. Good. So using this configuration, you can externalize your configuration, because in some time I have seen that in some company they have specifically, they used to say like that कि log messages हमारे ये category की अलग file में जाने चाहिए, ये file में अलग जाना चाहिए, and you need to maintain that in a logback spring.xml file in a separate. Don't put that log related configuration in the application.properties. But for your project, what you can do, you can utilize. If you don't need this kind of configuration, you can utilize your application.properties to enable your log label, to format your log label, or किस तरह के log message, if you want to put that in a file, you can utilize as well. Now, the last example, this is not important for you, but for extra knowledge, I have put that one. कि अगर आपको by default Spring Boot क्या use करता है? Spring Boot logback use करता है, लेकिन आपको latest वाला log4j2 use करना है SLF4j के साथ, तो आपको एप्लीकेशन में कुछ चेंजेस नहीं करने हैं, बस आपकी डिपेंडेंसी जो है ना, जैसे स्प्रिंग बूट स्टार्टर वेब की डिपेंडेंसी है, वहां पे आपको एक टैग यूज करना है एक्सक्लूजन, और एक्सक्लूजन टैग से आपको क्या करना है, ये आपकी नॉर्मल डिपेंडेंसी लॉगिंग की हटा देनी है. आई डोंट वांट टू यूज द डिफॉल्ट लॉगिंग ऑफ स्प्रिंग बूट, दैट मीन्स आई डोंट वांट टू यूज द लॉग बैक. So by exclusion, you can exclude your what default behavior, any kind of default pattern or default framework it is using, you can exclude that. And then you need to add this log4j2 related dependency. क्योंकि आपने देखा था log4j का था, लेकिन log4j2 का dependency नहीं था. So you can add those dependencies externally. बाकी आपकी application same as it is. If you want to externalize कि log4j2 के लिए भी हम external XML file लिखें, in that case you can use log4j2 -string.xml, and this is the file will perform the similar kind of approach, similar kind of performance. Does it make sense? It's purely optional. The extra information it is given. No need to put that in your application. Don't exclude that logging default behavior, and don't use that log4j2 in your application. This is just one extra knowledge. Am I clear? Please confirm. Hello. Now, the major important thing is that here, let's say that I want to utilize this log message. कहाँ रखे, किस तरह के log message? So I'm going to use here what this Spring Boot relationship application, right? So in that I have already used, I guess, Lombok we हम use कर रहे हैं यहाँ पे. Yeah. So what we can do, let me just go to this application, and we need to go for each classes, like controller class. And here, let's say that here we can take the logger. How we can take the logger, since I have used SLF4j, so SLF4j. And now you can write the log message. Let's say that here I put that inside add method. So you can put here what? Log dot info inside, or add method, add inside the department controller, add new department. One message I kept. Now inside this here, you can keep this message, log dot, you can say debug, message here you can keep like this, not add debug, should be debug, add method, of department controller return which object plus saved DEPT object like this. So by using that log, we can check out that कि कौन सा object हमारा return हो रहा है इस method के through. Similarly, you can keep some log messages over here as well. Now, if you go to that here, suppose that some try catch block you have taken. In that catch block, you can put the log messages just like that we used to put na opinion to stack trace. Similar kind of that, you can take that error, ERR. Make sense? Since I have not used any try catch block inside my application, but in that case, if you are using, let's say that in my services, don't use any log message in the model classes, not required. So you can keep that in your services, department service. Now to get the idea कि किस तरह के log message हम कहाँ रखने चाहिए, what you can do in your Spring Boot, just you have given an idea to you, hit that Control Shift plus T. One dialog box will come. Control Shift T, and just like that, Control Shift and T. And here you can search any predefined class. For example, dispatcher servlet, I took that one. And here you can get the idea कि कौन से log message कैसे यहाँ पे put किए जा रहे हैं. So like that, you will see that a number of loggers and log messages like log debug here in the FLs, right? Then again in the try block, in the catch block, you can see that logger.trace. Then after here, you can notice logger.trace message is over here also. So logger.info somewhere also you may see there. So in which place we need to keep which type of log message like logger.debug. आपकी एप्लीकेशन अगर काफी कॉम्प्लेक्स है, काफी बड़ी एप्लीकेशन है, तो आप वहां पे सारे लॉग मैसेज आप यहाँ पे पुट कर सकते हो. Does it make sense? Where we need to keep the log message? Please confirm. Let's say that in department service is just an interface, but if I go to the department service INTL, तो पहले हमें log message चाहिए. So what we need to do? I need to use SLF4J. And then we can utilize here in the service method, what object got returned. We can return this list over here as well, whether we are getting the object or not, or whether the auto-wide object is coming or not, department repository value is coming properly or not. So which method it is returning the proper value or anything goes wrong here. So you can keep all those log messages using this log dot. And you can customize, you know that how to customize the format and you know how to put that in a separate file as well. So this is it. This is your entire logging session. And it is very, very important thing. Now onwards, whenever you do the project, at least keep some log messages in your project. Use SLF4J और हर project के अंदर क्या आप value return कर रहे हो, वो log message के अंदर होना चाहिए, it should be there. And when the control is entering into that one, if any critical part is there, you can put that log.error. If you want to debug some values, then you can put that log.debug. कि हम ये value को debug mode पे ही check करना है. हमें check करना है कि ये method कितनी बार call हो रहा है. तो जितनी बार ये log message print होगा, उतनी बार ये method हमारा add department call होगा. Am I clear? Please confirm. So how many log we have to intersect? It's totally depend upon you. How many services you have written? How many services you have written? At least हर method के अंदर एक ना एक log message तो जाना ही चाहिए. जितने log हमारे method हैं, ये पता चले कि ये method हमारा कब कब call हो रहा है. Maximum you can keep 1 or 2 method, but at least one log message should be there in each method. Don't put the log message in your getter setter method because it is not relevant, right? गेटर सेटर और या फिर टू स्ट्रिंग के अंदर हम लॉग मैसेज नहीं, लेकिन जो मेन हमारे सर्विस मेथड होंगे या फिर कंट्रोलर के हैंडलर मेथड होंगे, in that kind of method we can put some log messages. You can print the object as well using these log messages, and that messages will be very, very helpful. You can take that help from here, how this log messages and war message, info message is printed in your normal Spring Boot project. That's it about your logging. Now, actually, we should start that Spring Security, but next first day we will start that Spring Security. One day we are late. Actually, today Spring Security should be completed the first day, but no problem. Next week we have the curriculum break, so next week we'll start. But the Spring Security related notes is given to you. What I recommend you just go with these notes. I'm just going to execute one project with the Spring Security by giving you the bare minimum idea. Don't worry if you're not able to understand any concept. We will discuss about this entire thing in detail. But just giving some idea, we have that 12 minutes left. So 10 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes, I will just spend on that because tomorrow, day after tomorrow, we have the holiday. So you can play with this Spring Security. This is super important and super interesting framework. Okay. Before understanding, you can go with this introduction part of this. We'll come back to this one again, once again, these notes. But the main important thing I will tell you from here. Let me first go with this. How our Spring Boot exactly works, everyone know, and we discussed in our first day when I started the session, that is, whenever any client will give the request. ये request कहाँ पे जाती है हमारी? In a Spring Boot I'm talking about. Which component will trap this request? You need to give me the answer. Dispatcher servlet. Dispatcher servlet is one type of servlet. Servlet has the capability to take the request. It is a front controller. Then after it will take the help of controller, REST controller annotated class. Annotated class. Then after it goes to the @service annotated class. And then after it will talk to the repository. And then repository will talk to the database. This is the structure we discussed. Okay. Now in initial days, we know that we have how much servlet important role is. Now initial days, there is one concept called filters. Filters. वो filter क्या होते हैं? Filter is just like that from the client, and whenever the client will send the request, HTTP request, तो पहला जो component होता है वो एक servlet होता है. Request will go to the servlet. लेकिन servlet के पहले request जाने के पहले हमारे पास एक option होता है क्या कि हम इस request को intercept कर लें. Intercept करके उसमें pre-processing logic or post-generation logic we can write there. So we can put some component there. That component is called as a filter. इसे हम कहते हैं servlet filter. ये filter में हम करते क्या है कि request जाने से पहले हम इसे intercept कर लें. क्यों? हम चाहते हैं कुछ इसमें हम log messages डाल दें, कुछ इसको हम security constraint वगैरह लगा दें कि directly आप यहाँ पे ना जाओ, या फिर हम कुछ और चीजें की कुछ भी चीजें हम यहाँ पे log message यहाँ पे filter करें कि अगर ये चीज सक्सेस वैलिडेशन हम अप्लाई कर सकते हैं कि अगर वैलिड डेटा जा रहा है तभी ये सर्वलेट के पास जाए, अदरवाइज अननेसेसरी डेटा व्हाई वी शुड गो टू द सर्वलेट. नॉट ओनली इंटरसेप्ट द रिक्वेस्ट, इनफैक्ट वी कैन इंटरसेप्ट द रिस्पांस आल्सो. यहाँ से जो रिस्पांस आएगी ना क्लाइंट के पास, हम उसे भी इंटरसेप्ट कर सकते हैं. और उसे इंटरसेप्ट क्यों करते हैं? फॉर एग्जाम्पल डिस्पैचर सर्वलेट ने कुछ रिस्पॉन्स दिया, हम उस रिस्पॉन्स को फिल्टर के अंदर कस्टमाइज कर सकते हैं, उसको डेकोरेट कर सकते हैं, राइट. उस पर हम ऐड वगैरह लगा सकते हैं, चिपका सकते हैं कि डिस्पैचर सर्वलेट ने एक हमें नॉर्मल डेटा दे रहा है, नॉर्मल पेज हमें रिटर्न कर रहा है, हम उस पेज पे क्या करें, यहाँ पे हम ऐड यहाँ पे इन्वोक कर सकते हैं, उसको मॉडिफाई कर सकते हैं. दैट मीन्स फिल्टर बेसिकली यूज टू प्री प्रोसेस द रिक्वेस्ट and post process the request. I hope you got the point here why we need to intercept the request here. What is the purpose of the filters? Please confirm. Hello? In our revision batch, if I'll get the time, I will show one example to create a web application using servlet and how to use the filters manually as well. So suppose that your servlet, just like your prime minister or chief minister is there, तो फिल्टर क्या है, ये कि किसका असिस्टेंट है, कि जो भी रिक्वेस्ट आएगा ना पहले आप असिस्टेंट से बात करो, ये क्या करेगा, आपको अगर अलाउ करेगा तभी आप प्राइम मिनिस्टर या सीएम के पास जाओ. नॉट ओनली दैट, यहाँ से अब जब वापस जाओ तब भी आपको फिल्टर से आपको इसके पीए से होके गुजरना पड़ेगा, राइट. सो सिमिलर लाइक दैट योर फिल्टर्स विल बी देयर. रिवीजन में भी कुछ क्लासेस होंगे, सो इफ इट इज देयर, सो आई विल टेक सम क्लासेस एज अ मास्टर क्लास आल्सो. So let's show you one example of the normal servlet in JSP. Okay, so I hope you got the point about the filters. कि filter का क्या रोल है, हम अपने रिक्वेस्ट को इंटरसेप्ट कर सकते हैं. अब यहाँ पे ये जो हमारी चीजें हैं, पहले थोड़ी सी हम यहाँ डिस्कस कर लें. रिक्वेस्ट डिस्पैचर सर्वलेट के पास, और फिर कंट्रोलर, फिर आगे की कहानी. यहाँ पे जो स्प्रिंग सिक्योरिटी का कॉन्सेप्ट है, इट इज जस्ट लाइक दैट हियर। स्प्रिंग सिक्योरिटी, ये स्प्रिंग सिक्योरिटी क्या है? इट प्रोवाइड लॉट्स ऑफ फिल्टर्स, और इसी फिल्टर से ये स्प्रिंग सिक्योरिटी इंप्लीमेंट हुआ है। Why we use the security? Of course, for authentication, authorization. Authorization क्या होता है? कि suppose that if you are applying the Spring Security in your project, basically, so you are assigning a security guard in front of your building. आप एक security guard को आप hire करते हो कि अब कोई भी client आ रहा है ना, security guard आपके building के पास, so आपका security guard दो question पूछेगा उससे। पहला question, who are you? That means give me your identity, whether you are authenticated person or not. And if he has giving the identity, let's say that he is giving his username, password, or any mean he has authenticated, then the security guard will ask what you want, what you have the authority. This is the meaning of the proper access privilege is called authority. We will discuss about this authorization and authority in much more detail, but this is the idea I'm giving you. The Spring Security is just like a security guard in front of your project. एक सिक्योरिटी गार्ड लग जाएगा, अब वो हर क्लाइंट रिक्वेस्ट को स्टॉप कर देगा, किसी भी क्लाइंट रिक्वेस्ट को, और उसके सिर्फ दो ही सवाल होंगे, क्या? Who are you? What is your authority? That means, do you have the authentication? First, you need to authenticate, then only I will allow in my system. And second, you should have the right access privilege. Then only you can enter into the system. Does it make sense? Please confirm. Cool. अब ये Spring Security हम कैसे use करते हैं? So why it is, how it is used? So here it is the diagram. So just now I was trying to explain. So Spring Security having multiple what filters? These are the filters. Filters के साथ खास बात ये होती है ना कि आप कई कई filter लगा सकते हो, जरूरी नहीं कि एक ही filter है. N number of filter could be there, and this filter should be in a chain. It follow a chaining mechanism. कि पहले आपको इस PA से मिलके जाना पड़ेगा, फिर अगर ये पास करता है, then you are going to intercepted by this filter, again you are going to intercepted by this filter, again by this filter. When the response will come, then these filters again will intercept you, then only your response and request will travel. So this series of filters is known as filter chain. So Spring Security is implemented based on the series of filters or filter chain. तो आपको अपने एप्लीकेशन में कुछ नहीं करना है, hardly you need to write one configuration class, and the remaining things will be done by your filters, your configuration class, and at least one or few classes. That's it. And your entire authentication, authorization, you'll be able to handle without touching your main business logic. You can protect your APIs. Make sense? Please confirm. Shall I show one example for the Spring filter or Spring Security? One small, simple example. Let me show you. I'm going to create one project, Spring Starter project. And this is Spring Boot or Spring Security app 1. Click on next. Here I'm selecting Spring Web, and then after, let's say that Lombok not required, and DevTools. And here I need to search Spring Security. Spring Security, like this. So 3 dependencies. DevTools so optional है, but Spring Web and Security. Web क्यों? क्योंकि REST API बनाना है, and Spring Security 1 dependency. Just like that, you have added 1 dependency. आपने क्या किया? आपने अपने एप्लीकेशन के लिए एक सिक्योरिटी गार्ड हायर कर दिया. अब वो सिक्योरिटी गार्ड किसी भी एपीआई को कॉल करने नहीं देगा. You have to first authenticate yourself, then only you will be allowed in the system. Let me show you. So my dependencies are resolved. So Spring Security App 1. Here you will notice that in the pom.xml, these are the details. Here is the Spring Web and Spring Starter Security. Cool. Now I'm going to create some APIs. So I'm creating one controller. Say that my controller and this controller I'm giving here @ REST controller, and I'm creating some API. So first one, public string hello 1, return Welcome to the security. So this is the first method. This is the second method. Say hello to. Welcome to the Spring Security 2. Let's say that. Now this one I'm annotating with @get mapping. It says slash hello 1 and slash hello 2. Cool. So I have two endpoints out there, right? Now I have not done any configuration. Just हमने एक project बनाया है, Spring Security की dependency add कर दी है और दो हमने get API बनाया है. Let's start the application and see the behavior. Stop the process, listening the port. Okay, my some application was already running. That's why it was showing the error. Let me stop them and restart this application once again. Cool. My application got started. Now let's try to access these endpoints and see here the magic. Now, if I will try to access this endpoint, see here what will happen. Slash hello 1 and give the request. This time you will see that one login page came. So route got changes. It is slash login. And here it is asking the username and password. Not only this, in fact, if you try to access any invalid resource, let's say that हम यहाँ पे access कर रहे थे hello 1, right? हम चाहते हैं यहाँ पे हम access कर रहे हैं क्या ABCD. ये रिसोर्स कोई नहीं है, हमारे पास कोई इसका URI नहीं है. Still, it is asking that ये सही है या गलत रिसोर्स एक्सेस कर रहे हो. I'm not going to tell. Security guard is saying that whether you are accessing the correct or wrong, first you have to authenticate yourself. You need to give your username and password, right? This login page, how it is coming? Did I create that? No, I have not created. It is already created. Now, sir, what username password we should give here? The default username and password for the Spring Security is a username, or password kahan hai? Password is generated in your console. Now, password you can notice in your console, one random password number is generated like this. So copy this password and then you can paste this over here and sign in. Now it is saying that, hey, I am not able to access ABCD. Now, once I have authenticated, now if I try to access hello 1 and boom, here I am able to access that. Not only this, if I will try to another endpoint, hello 2. अब जादू की बात ये है कि हमसे दोबारा हमसे यूजर नेम पासवर्ड नहीं मांगे. Here you will notice here I'm able to access the second API as well, right? But what I will do that I will just go here and I have another route is there called logout. And here it is asking, are you sure to log out? Yes. Now this is my home page. Now, if I will try to call again hello 1 and hello 2, it will be restricted. Hello 1. So no, I need to give my the credential. So give your credential. Let's say that user and password is your long generated password. And here is your output. Does it make sense? Please confirm. Cool. Let me show you the another interesting thing. How this is knowing that whether you are authenticated or not, basically based on it maintain one cookies for authenticated user. एक बार आपने and how to change the username password. Let's first do that one. हम चाहते हैं कि अभी क्या होगा ना प्रॉब्लम कि अगर आपने ये पासवर्ड कंसोल पे जनरेट हुआ है और आप फिर से सर्वर को स्टार्ट करोगे तो ये पासवर्ड दूसरा बदल जाएगा. Another password will come. So I don't want to use that. I want to use my own username and password. So in that case, stop the server and you need to do this configuration. What is this? In your city mentioned there. Sure. Yeah. In application.properties, you need to add these two dependencies, two configuration details. So go to your application.properties and paste this. string.security.user.name, it is Masai, and string security.user.password, your wish, whatever username password you can use. जैसे ही आपने ये कॉन्फ़िगरेशन कर दिया, अब क्या होगा? You are not going to get the auto generated password on the console. So if I run my application once again, my application got started. Now if I try to log in, that is hello one. Here is the username and password. I need to give Masai and password 1234. And here I'm able to access that. Am I clear? Please confirm till this part. Okay. How this magic is working, just 5 minutes I will take, then after I will stop the session. So don't worry how the all the magic we are going to reveal कि ये हमारा login page कैसे आ रहा है और भी क्या-क्या चीजें हम कर सकते हैं. But I will just reveal the one secret of this magic. That is what? If you notice this, once it is logged in, how it is maintaining. If I try to एक बार login हम हो गए, तो अगला हम जब API कॉल कर रहे हैं तो ये फिर से हमसे बार-बार हमसे यूजर नेम पासवर्ड नहीं मांग रहा है. वो क्यों? Because if you just open the console of your browser, let me just hit that F12 and go to the application tab here. And here in the cookies section, you will notice there's a one cookie is maintained for your website. This cookie का नाम है JSession ID. What is the cookie? Cookie is the one type of session tracking mechanism कि basically cookies की जरूरत क्यों पड़ती है? क्योंकि HTTP के stateless protocol है. I hope you know about the stateless protocol. Please confirm. HTTP. HTTP is a stateless. What do you mean by stateless? कोई बता सकता है? क्योंकि आप जब रिक्वेस्ट भेजते हो फ्रॉम ब्राउजर टू द सर्वर, तो ये रिक्वेस्ट किस और रिस्पांस किस फॉर्मेट में जाता है? दैट इज इन द HTTP, राइट? HTTP. And HTTP is a stateless protocol. What do you mean by stateless? Stateless means what? कि once it will give the request and it get the response, then after, while giving the request, it will create a socket connection and it will transfer the data. Once it get the response, it break the socket connection. It will destroy that connection and it will forget every conversation, whatever it has done in the previous request. अगली बार फिर से आप ब्राउजर से रिक्वेस्ट भेजोगे तो ये फिर से एक नया सॉकेट कनेक्शन बनेगा और ये डेटा हमारा फिर से फ्रेश ट्रैवल होगी और इस HTTP प्रोटोकॉल को पिछला कन्वर्सेशन पूरी तरह से भूल जाएगा. जस्ट लाइक दैट यू माइट हैव सीन वन मूवी वाज देयर ना, गजनी. आप लोगों ने देखी होगी मूवी आमिर खान की. इन तेलुगु इट वाज सूर्या. यस. सो गजनी में क्या था ना, ये HTTP प्रोटोकॉल पूरा गजनी की तरह है. मतलब वहां पे भी जैसे था ना आमिर खान, वो हर कन्वर्सेशन भूल जाता था. तो ये भी वही है, एक बार इसने रिक्वेस्ट दिया, इसका रिस्पांस मिला, इट विल फॉरगेट दैट प्रीवियस कन्वर्सेशन. ये पूरा पिछली वाली बातें सारी भूल जाती है. अब टू मेंटेन द सेशन, और एक्चुअली दिस नेचर इज कॉल्ड स्टेटलेस नेचर. बट इन ऑर्डर टू मेक द स्टेटफुल, पिछला कन्वर्सेशन याद करने के लिए, अभी यहाँ पे क्या हो रहा है, हम हर बार यहाँ पे नया रिक्वेस्ट दे रहे हैं. But it is not asking the username and password once again. It understood that yes, I am authenticated person. हमने username password pass कर दिया है. अब आप किसी भी API को कॉल कर सकते हो. So in order to make this stateful, this HTTP, the nature of the stateful, it use some tricks. It uses what? Some tricks. कुछ कुछ ये ट्रिक फॉलो करता है. जैसे वो आमिर खान भी कुछ ट्रिक फॉलो करता था ना, बातों को याद करने के लिए, पुराने कन्वर्सेशन को. कौन कौन से ट्रिक वो याद यूज करता था? Cameras, photos, writing something on the body, sticker, right? So it uses some tricks. Similarly, HTTP protocol also uses some tricks. Which tricks? There are tricks, some called hidden form field. I hope you know that hidden form field in HTML. Then it is the cookies, URL rewriting. So these are what some certain techniques are there. HTTP session, So these are some techniques जिसके थ्रू वो पिछले कन्वर्सेशन को याद करता है. तो कुकी उन्हीं में से एक टेक्निक है. तो ब्राउजर जब भी रिक्वेस्ट किया, सर्वर ने कुकी बनाया, एंड दैट कुकी, दैट मींस इन योर सर्वलेट, बैकएंड सर्वलेट, सर्वर के अंदर डिस्पैचर सर्वलेट रहता है, वही सर्वलेट ही आपका एक्सेस करता है डेटा, राइट? तो दैट सर्वर, बेसिकली दैट योर सर्वलेट will create a cookie and send back to the browser once again. और हर कुकी को पता है कि किस वेबसाइट से वो बिलोंग कर रहा है. नाउ दिस ब्राउजर विल अगेन सेंड द रिक्वेस्ट, अगर इस सर्वर पे, इस ब्राउजर पे, तो वो कुकी ट्रैवल होते हुए फिर से वापस चली आएगी. एंड सर्वर विल अंडरस्टैंड, ओके द कुकीज इज कमिंग, सेम थिंग, इट विल अंडरस्टैंड कि ये कुकी हमारी ही है और इस कुकी के अंदर हमने क्या इन्फॉर्मेशन सेंड कर रखा है. तो आपने को ना ब्राउजर में कुकीज देखा होगा. कुकीज का काम क्या होता है कि it will store that in your browser also. Some cookies are the session cookies, some cookies are the permanent cookies. Permanent cookies is used to store in your hard disk. And cookies are basically used to do what? Maintain the session or target the customer also. आप लोगों ने देखा होगा कि जैसे ही आप कोई सर्च करते हो प्रोडक्ट को फ्लिपकार्ट या अमेजन पे, फिर आप जैसे फेसबुक ओपन करते हो तो वहां पे उसके सजेशंस आने लगते हैं कि आप ये सर्च कर रहे थे, अभी इस पे डिस्काउंट चल रहा है, लिमिटेड स्टॉक है, या फिर कोई मूवी आप या किसी चीज के उससे सजेशन आने लगता है. यू कैन कंसीडर दिस वन. तो उसे कैसे पता कि हम ये प्रोडक्ट सर्च कर रहे हैं? बेस्ड ऑन व्हाट कुकीज ओनली. व्हाइल सर्चिंग द प्रोडक्ट, दे विल चेक दैट योर प्रेफरेंसेस, क्रिएट अ कुकी एंड सेंड बैक टू योर ब्राउजर. और फेसबुक वालों से उनका इंटरनल कॉन्ट्रैक्ट होता है कि आप हमारे वाले कुकी को आप अलाउ कर देना. तो जैसे वो कुकी फेसबुक के पास जाएगी, फेसबुक वाले आपके प्रेफरेंसेस को आइडेंटिफाई कर लेंगे और उसके रिगार्डिंग आपको टारगेट करेंगे. These are some suggestions they were going to give you by using some artificial intelligence and blah blah things they may use. So cookies are the very, very important thing. And I will stop the session here itself. What you will do that you will try to check ये cookies कैसे काम करते हैं. What are the roles of the cookies browser पे? And Spring Security, how uses the cookies to maintain the authenticated user session. So by this one, lots of things we need to reveal in our upcoming session. Due to the time constraint, we cannot extend beyond that. So I'm going to stop the session. Remaining thing about this Spring Security in much more detail, we are going to discuss in our upcoming session. Thank you for your participation, for your patience, and I hope you have already filled out your feedback form. Please stop the recording.